free to leave the Government of National Unity if she wants. He was speaking to the media at the start of the 6-day NEC meeting and NEC Lekgotla in Boksburg, east of Joburg. This follows some conflicting remarks by ministers and deputy ministers from different political parties in the union. Mbalula says they are not going to beg anyone. He says if Zille wants to leave the GNU, she's free to do so.
We are not negotiating with people with a cap in their hand. That's the Anenga. No Zille Simneng. If she wants to leave the GNU, she can leave. But we invited everybody to work together. And they have agreed, and we are working together. So let's not go up and down and fool South Africans about things that are non-existent. The fact of the matter is that nobody got outright majority. The people said, go sit down and form government. We have done that. So why should we argue about that? Let's work for the people. But it doesn't mean that you suppress your political identity and what you actually represent.
Investigations are underway to determine the cause of the crash involving a bus and a train which claimed the lives of 6 school learners in Wonderfontein in Mpumalanga. 19 other learners were injured and are being treated in hospital. Allegations have surfaced that the bus driver was under the influence of alcohol at the time of the crash. Mpumalanga Roads and Transport MEC Thulasizwe Thomo says the police should investigate these allegations.
As a department, of course, we are going to take drastic measures as part of responding to the incidences that we are experiencing in the province, especially as it relates to scholar transport. I have instructed the team that is dealing with transport management that we must meet as soon as tomorrow to gather some sustainable solutions that are going to resolve the issue of scholar transport, because clearly there's a problem that we are confronted with. And what is so painful is that the driver who was in that bus, it's a driver we are told that was under the influence. Secondly, he has been reckless.
And the U.S. Republican candidate in November's presidential election, Donald Trump, has questioned the racial identity of his presumptive Democratic rival, Kamala Harris. During a confrontational appearance at the Black Journalists Conference, Trump falsely accused Harris of always claiming to be of Indian heritage and, in his words, only turning black a few years ago.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
The top story at 3 o'clock, a judgment has been reserved in the trademark dispute case between the ANC and the MK party. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Jen stuns Swiatek to reach Olympic tennis final, and Smith one swim away from winning another Olympic Games gold medal. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
So Sharon at office was telling me the way drip is so expensive these days. She's now waiting for her old clothes to come back into fashion. I say, Joza, while you're waiting, why not let your money do the things in a Nedbank Just Invest account where you can get your money after 24 hours notice? Oganchani voiceman.
In Jalo Mabel, you can earn up to 8.75% interest. Anyone can open an investment account via the Money app in under 2 minutes. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's the first elimination challenge, and to stay in the competition, the bottom 6 contestants must channel their inner Italian by baking a delicious handmade pizza using leftovers from the fridge. Who will survive to bake another day? Find out on the Tastemaster Junior. Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the WeBuyCars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse and keeping your daily appointment, because you, effectively, play this huge role in driving and moving the conversations that truly matter. So wherever you may be, in a city, in a dorpy, in a province, around the country, anywhere in the world, welcome to the National Pulse here on SAFM. My name is Ashraf Garda. Great as always to connect with you, and you can engage in multiple ways. You know that we have a bumper show coming up, as we always do, with a whole range of issues that will certainly move the National Pulse. But as always, just a question to you. What for you today moves the National Pulse? Because we want to host the conversations that truly matter, that moves you. But what for you then moves the National Pulse today? And the truth is, as I ask that to you, your opinion versus somebody else's may differ completely. To call in, it's 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp 0614 104 107 in text or in voice note form, and as always you can tweet out SAFM Radio, just that X platform, tag SAFM Radio, tag me, Ashraf Garda, use the hashtag The National Pulse. Do the same thing on Facebook as well. Many people comment on Facebook. Love the fact that many people on Facebook in particular, but we have it less on Twitter, is like, hey, I'm here, I'm with you. So if you are one of those who are with us and you've joined in, great. Give me your name, where you're from, and I'll give you a shout out too. But also, some people do those pictures, stating exactly, where you are, but also showing a picture of your dial locked into SAFM, and it's great if you do that. Let me just say this much, okay? Today is the 1st of August, so it's the beginning of Women's Month. Women's Day happens on the 9th of August. And we know that Women's Month, or Women's Day specifically, is centered around what happened on the 9th of August a long, long time ago, when South African women, black women mainly, but not exclusively so, effectively women who were disenfranchised, took it upon themselves to assert themselves in a way that has not been done before. Now, I won't go down that road because it's going to be discussed, I'm sure, extensively over the next couple of days and maybe even today as well. But I will say this much. If Women's Day is a symbol of women's rights and powers to assert themselves, and if Women's Month is a reflection of that on a mega monthly scale, then the big question we have to be asking ourselves right now, right, if we have a matrix of measuring women empowerment across multiple sectors of South African society, where do we measure up in 30 years of South Africa's democracy? Forget even what happened before that. In 30 years of South Africa's democracy, how do women measure up when stacked up against the key indices that will determine whether women are empowered or not? And I'd leave it to you to give me the answers in terms of how do you think. You can separate them into different categories, but I'd leave it to you. You tell me, are women sufficiently empowered as we once again get to Women's Month, or what more needs to be done? Well, that's my question, that's my point, and you tell me what's yours.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, looking forward to your calls and also your pictures of wherever you may be. Also, if you're locked into the dial, showing off SAFM, wherever you may be in the country. Right, let's get to first things first. The issue that I think is a really important one, that earlier today, the National Police Commission, newly appointed, remember, Fani Masemola, announced that police have every right to defend themselves. The key word here is every right to defend themselves from criminals who shoot at them first. Masemola was reacting to criticism from some quarters of the shootouts between police and suspects, as you may be aware of recently, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal. So here's a bigger question. What rights do police have in defending themselves on the one hand? To what degree can they shoot at potential criminals who then, if they are killed, they don't get brought to trial? But is that the solution? And I'd like to get your thoughts on that too. But first things first, Dr. Chris de Kock will help us with that. He's an independent crime, violence and security analyst. Dr. de Kock, you're welcome to joining us here on the National Pulse. Hello.
Hello to you and the listeners.
Thank you. So maybe first things first, let's start with this. What can a police officer do or not do when engaged with a criminal?
Well, look, if a police officer go to arrest a criminal or encounter a criminal in a roadblock or wherever, or stop a vehicle and then identify these people as suspects, and they pull out a firearm or they are clearly armed, then the police can, and they start to fire shots at the police, then the police can respond with shots.
Okay, that's provided that the criminal pulls the firearm first.
Yeah. Well, the police must be sure that they have firearms and that they are already pulled out the firearm and that they're going to shoot.
But one of the problems with that part, and I know we're being technical, is that you almost have to. I'm just thinking of these old Western movies when they have these draws. You have to wait for the other person to effectively about to shoot the trigger, and then pull the trigger, and then you go. Like it's a Russian roulette, isn't it?
Yeah, but you must remember, we live in South Africa. Our criminals are armed, most of them. They are very dangerous. They don't hesitate to use violence. I once spoke to American experts in this regard, police experts, and they actually said that if a police officer can't draw his firearm and quickly enough, and the criminal already have his firearm in his or her hand, then it is basically too late. That police officer will be shot.
Okay, so let's say
and especially it seems in KwaZulu-Natal that the gangs of criminals operating there are very, very, very definitely starting to shoot first.
Okay, so you're saying that the officer must be competent enough to be able to come out of that draw, that shootout safe, right? So in that light, the comments by the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, right, that in fact they have the right to defend themselves. Do you concur with that? Because there's been some criticism of that.
No, I can't see how people can criticize that. I fully agree with the National Commissioner, and for me, this is just how it should be. I mean, we must the police now, when they confront a gang, and this gang is now armed, must the police be prepared to be shot? I mean, this person left home this morning. We want to go back to home this evening. If police officers will not be, I mean, I can be sure of that. Will not be. They will not just accept this.
I mean, amongst the criticism, it's come from IPID, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me, because IPID should know. I mean, they are part of the police basically. That it is not the case if the criminal shoot first. Well, they can expect the police to respond with violence. Maybe they should attend more of these ceremonies. There's once a year there's a ceremony for the fallen police officers, at the Union Building. When I was still in the police, I attended about 18 of those. And there you see what the result is if a police officer die in the line of duty.
Okay. The counter-argument to that...
It's a very sad situation.
I think there's no question about it. You're right. They've put themselves out in the line of duty and they've lost their lives, which impacts on them directly, but certainly on their families too. Now, the counter argument of that is that when there's this shootout, and it appears like the shootouts are larger or bigger, more frequent in KZN, then it comes across as that's the way to go, and then therefore many criminals or suspected criminals in this case don't even have the opportunity to, if I can say, to have their day in court because they've been killed already and without being convicted. Do you get the point? I mean, and that's been the criticism.
Yeah, I know, but I can't agree with that criticism. When the police go to a house to arrest, say, a group of criminals, like the case that we had early this year in Louis Trichardt, where 19 people were shot by the police. I mean, if they know the police are outside, the police announce that they are outside, that they must come out with their hands in the air. And then they start to shoot. Well, what can they expect?
So it's interesting.
Certain the police warn them and say, listen, we are outside. Can you please come out with the hands in the air? And now suddenly they start to shoot. And you know what is interesting of that group in Louis Trichardt, and it may be similar in other cases, the more recent ones. In Louis Trichardt, they were prepared. The criminals were prepared to fight right to the last person. They didn't give over. They didn't say, "Oh, yeah, now the police are shooting at us. I must ask to be."
Okay, so for those that claim that the police are intolerant of the suspected criminals and shoot too quickly, the flip side of that is that are the police far too tolerant? That means there's another perception that the police are far too tolerant and we actually give the criminals too much leeway to the detriment of our general safety.
I won't say that, because police have to be tolerant. And if you come out with your hands in the air or you hand yourself over, then the police must be tolerant. I mean, then you must get your day in court, and the justice process must follow.
Okay, that's.
But if you fire shots at the police, you have no good intentions, and then the police must have the right to protect themselves.
All right, just the last thing: is there? In this relationship that we've been talking about, is there anything that you would suggest and recommend that the police do that they're not doing right now to ensure that the law takes its course, they go about doing their duty, and are able to apprehend criminals at a rate far higher than they're doing right now?
I actually don't get your question.
My point is, whatever the police officers are doing right now, is there one thing they can do better that will ensure that more criminals are apprehended quickly? It's not specifically talking about a shootout. It's about apprehending the criminals.
No, apprehending the criminals, I think the police can improve their investigation skills. They can improve their intelligence skills, get more intelligence where the criminals are hiding, and use that intelligence.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Dr. Chris de Kock, independent crime, violence and security analyst.
SA Schools football comes alive on the 9th and 10th of August 2024 at Sarah Park, Wits University for the SA Schools National Championship from 9 a.m. daily. The best under-15 boys and girls representing their province's school teams will battle it out to try and be selected into the under-15 schools national team. Bring your family and camp chairs to support your provincial under-15 team. If you're not in Gauteng, catch the games on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus. For more details, visit safa.net. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hey, you know what, South Africa? We're just not talking about enough.
Excuse me?
Use it liberally. Use it early. Use it with your folks.
Hey, careful, young lady.
Yes, it'll be awkward at first, but not quite as awkward as your tidy-whitey wearing father-in-law spending his golden years on your couch. Wouldn't you agree? Finances is not a dirty word. Let's start talking about it, Mzansi. Find out how at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services, and registered credit provider.
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak, and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
You know, I'm looking at this note from TG, the listener. TG, I have to respond to you. TG, you're saying, Ashraf, it seems that you and the rest of the media are supporting criminals. And maybe some in the media are in the bag of criminals, and we are behind the men and women. And they must fight fire with fire. And those who criticize are clearly working with the criminals, or they are criminals themselves. And for your information, General Masimola is not new in the position. Please get your facts right when on radio. TG, I'll tell you what, in terms of his newly appointed position, that's one thing. The question is, where do you get this point that we are supporting criminals? If we speak about an issue because there's been a conversation about it, does that suggest in any way that we are supporting criminals or that I am supporting criminals? Where does that say that? I mean, I think you should get your facts right as well. We, as a media platform, we reflect different opinions. So, yes, if there's a school of thought from some organizations that police officers are trigger happy, then we, and quoting directly from the police commissioner, we then reflect that with another analysis, which we've done just now. In no way, in that case, do I say, for example, that I agree that they should let off shooting. In fact, I'm completely on side in the war against criminals because they've destroyed lives and they've destroyed the hopes of many people in this nation of ours. Let's get to the global watch now. 123 countries are demanding that Cuba be excluded from the list of state sponsors of terrorism that has been drawn up by the United States government. These countries are arguing that the list violates their fundamental principles of international law. So why Cuba, and how much weight does this list carry? Brian Britta with me, Cuba's Deputy Head of Mission. Brian, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garda. It was a pleasure for us and to the embassy, of course, being in talks with you about this important issue.
Okay, so first of all, how many countries are on this U.S.-sponsored list of what they call, countries that are involved in state-sponsored terrorism?
Well, yes. Before that, I would like to offer to your audience a brief historical background on how does Cuba get or enter in this particular list.
Yeah, but if you can just answer how many first, because we just, time is always tight. How many countries are part of that list?
Actually, it's a few of them. I believe it's 4 or 5 countries who are allegedly sponsor terrorism.
All right, got that right. Now tell me why is Cuba on that list?
Well, during Obama's administration, the former President Barack Obama decided to remove Cuba in 2015 from the so-called list of the State Department sponsored terrorism. That's why Donald Trump, in just a few days before leaving the White House, he decided to include Cuba again in the State Department list as a state-sponsored terrorism. So can you imagine?
Are you still there, Brian?
A few weeks. Yes, it was just a few weeks before leaving the White House. So the effects of being in that list is, of course, to reinforce the economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the government of the United States, of course, since the very beginning of the Cuban Revolution in the 60s.
All right. So now, 123 countries are supporting Cuba being removed from that list. That means many countries in the world. Which, are there any notable names you'd like to tell us?
Of course, yes, Mr. Garda. One of the most valuable assets that Cuba have always possessed is the international solidarity. That's why just a days ago, 123 countries demanded in Geneva the exclusion of Cuba from the list of state-sponsored terrorism. So, but also there have been many governments, presidents, former presidents, foreign ministers, parliamentsmen, and women, regional organizations, organizations of solidarity with Cuba, political parties all around the world, including the South African Communist Party and some of the other South African partners who have condemned the inclusion of Cuba from the so-called states sponsoring terrorism. Many African countries have always
how much weight
demand.
does this carry? How much weight does the fact that countries pick up their hands and effectively telling the USA remove Cuba from that list?
Well, Cuba's inclusion on that list has led to numerous firms and financial organizations abroad refusing to operate with Cuba to fear the reprisals. That's why many countries all around the world have demanded the exclusion of Cuba from the list, taking into account the consequences, not just for Cuba, for third parties to be in that list. That's why there are a lot of claiming all around the world demanding the removal of Cuba of this particular list.
Okay, is it going to happen? Demanding a removal doesn't always equate to, say, the USA listening to you. Is it going to happen?
Well, it's a good question, Mr. Garda. For example, I can tell you, since 1992, the UN has approved a resolution demanding the end of the blockade. Not yet the blockade have been lifted. So we hope, of course, and that at some point the United States decided to remove all laws from that list, taking into account this is against the fundamental principles and norms of international law. So I believe it's the right thing to do, of course.
Okay, we'll see what comes out of this position. Brian Brito, thanks for your time. Cuba's Deputy Head of Mission, and that responding to the fact that now 123 countries are demanding, keyword is demanding, that Cuba be excluded from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. And that list has been drawn up by the U.S. government, so effectively demanding the USA removes Cuba from that list. What do you make of that? Do you have a strong opinion on it? I'm sure you do. If it's so, get it off your chest. 086 000 2032. WhatsApp is 0614 104 107. You can also post it on social media, Facebook as well as on the Twitter or X platform. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30. Here's Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon. In your headlines, a Deputy Transport Minister Mkhuleko Hlengwa says the government is losing millions of rand to road crashes across the country, and this has a direct impact on the country's economy. Judgment has been reserved in the trademark dispute case between the ANC and the MK party. And the Bangladeshi government has banned the country's Jamaat al-Islami party, its student wing, and other associate bodies, terming the party a militant and terrorist organization. I'll be back with a full news update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Heldness Interchange, and Pretoria Road in Kempton Park has delays between CR Swart Road and Plain Road. In KZN, the N3 reopened between Key Ridge and Hammersdale after earlier blasting works. The M13 westbound queuing towards Everton Road exit, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound has a crash reported after Rhodes Drive. Bakengracht Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway. Strand Road eastbound in Stikland is slow moving towards the R300 highway, and Brighton Road in Kryfontein slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, let's talk Olympics to me. What else can we talk about?
Well,
Tonight, I've made a note. 8 o'clock watch, but from 9 to 10, don't take calls. Definitely so. Yeah.
A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. We start off with tennis, yes, at the Olympics. And Queen Wen Zhen beat world number 1 Iga Swiatek 6-2 and 7-5 to become the first Chinese player to reach an Olympic Games tennis singles final. Zhen will face either Croatia's Donna Vekic or Anna Karenina of Slovakia in the gold medal match. In swimming sensation Tatiana Smith is on the brink of clinching double gold medals at the ongoing games in Paris. This will be her second appearance in the 200-meter breaststroke final, where she's determined to defend her title and become the second South African after Caster Semenya to win consecutive gold medals in the same event. She's feeling quite confident and really thrilled to advance to the final.
Yeah, I wouldn't say comfortable, but I really had fun. It was so cool that we could challenge each other. I knew it was going to be a good race. I just had to have confidence in myself and just race my own race because at the end of the day, I have to walk out of the pool being happy and not having any regrets. So, I enjoyed every single moment. This is the part of swimming that I love, is the competitiveness and challenging each other. And she brought out the best in me today, and I was very happy with that.
Well, Kayleen Corbett will also be in that 200-meter breaststroke and will be swimming alongside Tatiana. That is around 11 minutes past 9. Also in action today is Peter Kutzer, who's in the 200-meter backstroke, and he says he's all set for today.
I wanted to get into the final because if you're in the final, you got a chance. So it's just going to be a dogfight. Yeah, no, definitely. I know Johan, he's a very nice guy, so it's always nice racing him, and the crowd, I was trying to feed off their energy as well, and I think it worked.
Right, he'll be swimming at 20:38, so hopefully today we'll get 3 medals. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll definitely be looking forward to that. Also something to look forward to, Simone Biles. She'll be looking to make history by becoming the first woman ever to regain the Olympic all-round title after she famously withdrew in Tokyo with the twisties. So she'll be in action around 6:15. Then there's an Algerian female boxer by the name of Imaine Khalif, who is through to the quarterfinals of the women's boxing competition at the Olympics. She won after her opponent Angela Carini quit 46 seconds into the bout. And according to Carini, she said that she quit because of the intense pain in her nose after the opening punches. However, the story is she feels that it's unjust because, according to her, Khalif is a man. Now, Khalif is one of 2 athletes who have been cleared to compete in the women's boxing in Paris, having been disqualified from last year's Women's World Championships for failing to meet the eligibility criteria. And the question being, why has the IOC allowed her to compete as a woman? However, they have responded saying that all boxers in Paris comply with the competition's eligibility and entry regulations. Then in cricket, Sri Lanka Pacers Matisha Patharana and Dilshan Madushanka will miss August 3-match one-day international series against India. This is due to injuries, and Patharana hurt his shoulder during Tuesday's third T20 international against India, where Madushanka had a hamstring injury, adding to the host's fast bowling woes. Now, touring India swept the T20 series and will play 3 ODIs against the hosts on the 2nd of August, 4th and the 7th. Then finally, a big happy birthday to G Sport, who's celebrating 18 years of elevating women in sport. Don't forget that you can still nominate your favorite woman in sports, whether they are a journalist, a broadcaster, an administrator, an athlete, anything. Just head over to the G Sport website and nominate them for the awards that are coming up in September. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now.
Just a question. Do you know much about this? I mean, so our gold medal prospect, what's it? Tatiana, right. Yes. So, I mean, Tatiana Smith, she was the fastest in the heats, but not the fastest in the semi-final, but fast enough to get into the finals. Obviously, she was second, right?
Yeah.
Do you know whether that was because the opponent was genuinely faster or whether she had slowed down knowing that she had enough to
Well,
get
after
to the finals.
I think I listened to her interview afterwards. She says she did give her best. She always gives her best. She never slows down, no ways. I've seen how she also swims, especially that last few 50 meters. She always goes all out. So maybe she was faster, but we know that the 200 meter is a speciality. So maybe she will go all out.
But I mean, she has to, because I mean, what you want is for her to win another gold medal.
Of course.
In her case, it's not third.
No.
It's okay to get bronze or silver, but I mean, gold is
the
what
best.
you want.
You know, we saw her crying the other day. If she wins gold today, she will be wailing.
She'll be the first. I understand. I saw Rake Neertling's tweet. If she wins gold, she'll be the first ever South African to ever defend an Olympic title, gold medal. That means from the previous one to winning the same one 4 years later.
Yeah.
Nobody's done that before. Wow. Come on. Please do it. We'll celebrate. Right. More sport from you.
Right.
Olympics and anything else after in an hour's time. Yeah.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
We're going to chat to the South African Human Rights Commission later on, and this relates to that entire story about the Miss South Africa contestant who comes from a Nigerian and Mozambican background. Not about the legitimacy of it all, but so far as there's been many people using social media to bombard this person, right? And there's a case being made from the South African Human Rights Commission to say that sort of thing is not allowed. It is like cyberbullying, and you can't do that. So we'll talk about that later on. Let's talk about the ANC's NEC meeting that's kicked off today. It's the first one, of course, after the May 29 election. So it's a significant day, isn't it? I would think, and will continue for the next few days. Ntebo Mokobo with me, SABC News' political reporter who's got his eyes on the ground. So good chatting to you. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners.
All right, so how's it gone so far? I mean, a few hours into day one.
Well, it's a 6-day meeting. It started around 11 to be precise, because they said 10 o'clock, but by 10:30, some of them were still coming in. Even the Secretary General didn't come at the right time, and at 10 o'clock, as they said. But it started around 11, and of course, from there we had the doorstop with the spokesperson, and immediately after that, again, the Secretary General came and briefed us. But what is high on the agenda of this meeting, Ashraf, you recall that, I mean, as you correctly pointed out, that the meeting comes just weeks after the elections, and the ANC dipped below 50%, getting the exact 40% out of these elections. So they're trying to reflect in terms of where did the ANC go wrong in terms of them garnering such a low turnout in the elections. You would call that, I mean, they've been governing this country since 1994, 30 years to be precise. Now, things have changed. They dipped below 50%. So they're reflecting on the outcomes of the elections, and of course, even the state of the organization, looking at whether the ANC is in a good shape, and of course, the program of action as they've put together, they composed or constituted this government of national unity going forward.
So what then is the structure of the 6-day event? You know, like, is it open floor? Is it behind the scenes conversations that take place? Tell us what the structure is.
Well, you would call that this is not just an NEC meeting. It's NEC meeting plus NEC Lekotla. The NEC meeting is starting today up until Saturday. On Sunday, the NEC Lekotla will be taking place. Normally, the ANC Lekotla, you only have 2 NEC Lekotla, and you only have 2 cabinet Lekotla. So normally what happens is that at some point in the ANC, there is an ANC NEC meeting followed by the NEC Lekotla, and then, of course, while the ANC was in government, then after the NEC Lekotla is the cabinet Lekotla. But this time around, they didn't have that, because you would recall that, I mean, those people who will be participating in the cabinet Lekotla will be drawn from all different political parties. So what happens is that they have the NEC meeting now, and of course the NEC Lekgotla starting on Sunday. And on Sunday, the NEC Lekgotla will comprise of ministers and deputy ministers and premiers, mayors, and of course other people from the alliance partners like your SACP and COSATU, as well as SANCO. They will be deliberating in terms of where did the ANC go wrong in terms of getting 40%, and of course how they can then imbibe knowledge from each other in terms of taking the ANC forward and making sure that, because you'll recall there will be ministers and deputy ministers, making sure that the ANC 6 key priorities are well articulated within the context of the government of national unity going forward.
Okay.
You'll recall again that, this is a GNU where you've got almost 10 political parties. But in these 5 years, most political parties would be tempted to say the success of the GNU is based on their interventions. So the ANC will have to assert itself in terms of ensuring that their 6 key priorities are well spoken about in the community, in the public, to ensure that when they go to the next elections, they can say, the public can say, this is how they are going to judge the ANC going forward in the 2029 elections.
All right. Now, I missed some parts of the early morning because there's been power failures in some parts of Joburg, including here the SABC. But I understand that the ANC's Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, had commented about Helen Zille's comments about the GNU. Was that part of today's early session at the NEC meeting?
Well, he spoke about the GNU, and he spoke about, for instance, DA Federal Chair Helen Zille, that if people are not happy in the GNU, they are at liberty to leave. He said Helen Zille, if she wants to leave, she can leave. But everyone is invited into the GNU, and they are appealing to everyone to really work within the rhymes or within the bounds of the GNU, so that they take South Africa forward, and reminding all in sundry that this is not about them. This is about the people of South Africa.
Okay.
And one thing again that he commented on is that if people reflect on these elections, they will judge President Ramaphosa in terms of him as a leader. That under him the ANC has failed. He said that those who are jostling for position, those who see themselves as maybe better off to lead the country or to lead the ANC in 2027, they must hold their horses. He's saying that they're going to make sure that they suppress any succession debate for now, because for now what they should be looking at is to really refine the ANC machinery, is to really revive the ANC and make the ANC appealing to the electorate, even to its rank and file membership, because some people feel that they cannot associate themselves with the ANC, that it's deemed as corrupt.
Okay. And did he respond directly to Helen Zille's comments that, in fact, this is not a GNU? That's the words used by Cyril Ramaphosa, the ANC president, right? But in fact, it's a coalition between the DA and the ANC.
Yeah. Yes, he responded to that. He said that a grand coalition is a coming together of two political parties, but a government of national unity. Although it is totally different from the 1994 setup, because the 1994 setup was informed by the Constitution. Remember the interim Constitution, the 1993 interim Constitution. This time around, it's a coming together of more than 8 political parties. So that on its own, he said, constitutes a government of national unity, although it doesn't have the same machinations of the 1994 one.
All right. Lastly, anything else come up that you'd like to share?
Well, you will recall again that, today is the NEC. Tomorrow, the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, Nomvula Mokonyane, will be giving us what they have discussed. So tomorrow at around 10 o'clock, there will be a doorstop, and at around 12:30, the Deputy Secretary General will brief us in terms of the deliberations, the outcome of today's deliberations. And of course, again, that what they will be reflecting on is that they're going to put more meat into the much talked about a national dialogue. How is this national dialogue? What form is this national dialogue going to take? And of course, there are veterans here. Former President Thabo Mbeki is here. We are told that he's going to say something in this meeting. We don't know what his talk is going to be based on.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Ntebo Mokobo, SABC News political reporter. Appreciate you giving off your time. So let's comment about that. I mean, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. Helen Zille, in fact, saying this is not an analyst. This is somebody who's a senior partner of this GNU, saying this is not a GNU. This is a coalition between ANC and the DA. And I know many people have commented extensively on these shows to saying, don't call it the GNU. We know that, right? So what does this say about where we are with regard to that relationship? It's a fascinating one. It is so complex indeed, right? Okay, I want to pick out some of your voice notes, which I'll do right after this.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Mzansi Africa's beautiful game is back. Reigning champions Ezimnyama Nkani want to do it again, but they must conquer their battle against Gavin Hunt and his troops. However, Matsatsansa Pitori have a massive plan to march to the semi-final. This is the MTN 8 quarter-final. Wafa Wafa. Orlando Pirates versus SuperSport United. This Saturday, 3 August at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So where are you listening to the National Pulse? In the country, around the world. Send me a picture of you, well, it could be you, but definitely you and whatever, with your dial locked to SAFM. You can WhatsApp it as always, 0614 104 107. Also tweet it out or put it on Facebook to SAFM Radio, and you can tag me, Ashraf Garda. So in the meantime, your insurer makes many promises, but, well, the big question is, can they back it up? So OUTsurance can, and that's why they are the best insurance company in South Africa. Now, OUTsurance has consistently had the best ombudsman for short-term insurance results for the past 11 years and awarded Best Short-Term Insurer by News24 for the past 2 years. So why would you want to be with anyone else? SMS OUT to 30754. That's OUT, O-U-T, to 30754. Visit the website outsurance.coza for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands of rands. License, insurer, and an FSP, of course, T's and C's, and information online.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, there's some comments, and I certainly want to play some of those views. Here's one about the police.
Afternoon, Ashraf. This is Anele Deben. You know, Ashraf, it's difficult to understand that the police are defending themselves because in most cases, this incident occurred at night where we wake up the following day, the police have killed the criminals. Whilst there are some allegations that the police just come with an illegal firearms so that after they kill those people, they will let them hold those firearms as like it's for them. So it's difficult now to understand as public that all these people are being killed by the police are actually criminals. Thank you.
Okay, got that. So I wonder whether others would agree with that. That's, I mean, that's the point. That's the point about those that are saying, but you've now convicted them. But on the flip side of that, quite honestly, if somebody pulls out a firearm at you, are you going to be asking questions? I mean, seriously, I think we need to consider that one day. Here's another on the police.
Police are in danger here. These laws must change. The laws of the ANC must change. Police are in danger. Thank you.
Okay, that's another thought on the very same issue, isn't it? And yeah, okay, I think the point has been well made. Let's move on now into Women's Month. I made the point at the outset, and I did ask you, and some people are commenting, give me a sense for yourself that in the 30 years of democracy, if you have to stack up the issues of women empowerment against whatever the norm is, over like 10 categories, where do women in South Africa perform particularly well? I think maybe representation in Parliament in general comes to mind immediately, but there's many others where the answer is no. Where do they perform particularly well, and where are we still lagging behind? Because that, for me, would be the purpose of Women's Month, not so much to celebrate, but to use it as this benchmark to say how we're shaping up on this one. So with that in mind, the International Women in Leadership Summit that happens tomorrow, I understand, is an important one. The conference will be held under the theme 30 Years in Democracy and Progress Towards Gender Equality. You see, we speak the same language. Let's find out more about it with Bia Hakula, who's the president of Africa for Africa's Women's Conference. So Bia, I appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Hello. Ashraf, I must also greet your listeners, beautiful South African women. I greet you all. This cold afternoon in Johannesburg, I'm here already for the summit that's going to take place tomorrow, and celebrating 30 years of democracy in South Africa. Knowing that we've come a long way, and there's so many policies in our country that are very progressive.
Well, I'll tell you what, any summit that talks about women in leadership, and certainly in this case an international summit, gets my attention, and I think should get the attention of everybody nationwide, right? So give me the details. It happens tomorrow, I got that, but what's the essence of the summit?
The essence of the summit is to review how we have progressed as women over these past 30 years. Also, is to also look at the policies that have enabled the progress that has been registered. Obviously, the development, it starts with a person. And hence we've looked at the people that have actually made strides in terms of how they've progressed over the past 30 years, and used the policies that were enabling for them to venture in various spaces in terms of leadership in the various sectors. If you look at our program, it's very diverse. It's from the public service, the private sector, your entrepreneurs, and in the academic space, because the policy enables, but it's up upon people themselves to leverage such policies and take the bull by the horn and make a difference. Also looking at impact, because that's what is very important. Development is not about you as a person. And we selected this lineup of speakers because they did not only make a difference in their own lives, but they've impacted lives in a good way.
So let's go back to your intro, your first words. Is it a celebration tomorrow, your conference, or is it benchmarking?
It's both. Thank you very much for that question. Because we are benchmarking in order to say, how do you progress? We're talking government of national unity. And therefore, what is it that as women we are going to be able to say, this is where we are now, and this is how we can hold our government accountable in terms of how we progress going forward and implementing the policies that will be tabulated as we move towards the next 30 years, because we want to leave legacy, in the next 30 years, maybe might be a granny, very, very old granny. And therefore, there should be young people, the young generation, taking the work that we're doing forward and making sure that the women in our country and in the continent, because we're not only focusing in South Africa, because South Africa is part of African continent, and we need to make a change and build the Africa we want.
So in terms of women, celebrating women, I think there are plenty. I'm looking at the names, and there's some absolute luminaries. They will go through some of them in a moment. But let's just stay with the benchmarking for the moment. In your opinion, therefore, when you benchmark in terms of what should the position and the status of women be when stacked up against men in terms of opportunity and empowerment across the board, what do you think? Where do South African and African women measure up? Where are they at?
We have not progressed very much. Yes, there are areas where we say there has been great progress, especially if you look at the political space. I think we compare fairly well. But if you look at the women in boards, paying boards, I'm deliberately saying that because you go in the NGO space, you find them, doing charity work and being a part of those unpaying boards. But if you look at the listed companies, we're still way, way, way behind. And if you look at the academic space, in the whole big country, we only have 4 vice chancellors that are women, and that is not a progress that we can actually look at in the terms of the years that we're looking at.
All right.
So that's why we've selected this one, because we want to make sure that going forward, we have the building blocks. That's why we say a review. Once we're actually celebrating the strides made, we need to take a review and reflect and say, what is it that we did not, when I say we, government has to work with the civil society. So we have not done right in terms of ensuring that there's progress in terms of gender equality.
Okay.
Because we need to move away in the next 10 to 30 years. We should talk leadership, not women in leadership.
Well, I think we all concur on that. Give me, there are many different speakers, but I'm going to give you the privilege in the few minutes we have remaining, just to give me 5 key names that you'd like to shout out.
Yes, we have the honor of having the Chancellor of Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser-Moeketsi, as our keynote speaker for the awards ceremony, which is on Saturday, where we're actually celebrating these women and honoring them that have made significant strides and impact. In terms of the lineup of the speakers, tomorrow we have the ambassador designate for Libya and Ms. Lindiwe Hendricks,
okay,
who is going to be a speaker. We also have the honor of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Pakeng.
Former Vice Chancellor, yeah?
Yes, in that lineup. Koliswa Tini, who's actually really made strides in terms of the property industry. Koliswa Tini property started when you talk about when the group areas act.
All right, let's pause there. We're on to news time. So just a quick one. Where can they attend? Where is it being held? And can we find out more if somebody wishes to attend? Maybe just give me a website or a contact number.
082
Yeah.
780
Yeah.
1344.
All right.
082 780 1344.
And it's being held where?
It's held at the OR Tambo Premier Hotel here in Johannesburg. If you are flying, if you're on Gauteng, there's a shuttle taking you straight to the hotel.
Okay, so that's very near to the airport, yes, yeah.
Yes, and
all right.
Starting at 9 o'clock, 8:30 you should be here, and we're starting sharp at 9.
All right.
At 9 o'clock, and we will continue until around 5. We have the
okay, let's leave it at that. I'm going to get Vusani to tweet out that contact number as well. So if people wish to respond, they can certainly do so. And maybe they'll attend. It'll be great if they do. I think it sounds really, really promising. Abia Hakula, thank you for your time. President of the Africa for Africa Women's Conference. This in the context of the International Women in Leadership Summit that starts tomorrow, then continues on Saturday as well. Let's get the news now. It's just gone 4 o'clock with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ntate Ashraf. The top stories: millions lost in road crashes across the country and judgment reserved in the ANC-MK trademark case. A very good afternoon. Deputy Transport Minister Mkhuleko Hlengwa says the government is losing millions of rand to road crashes across the country, and this has a direct impact on the country's economy. He was addressing the media at the scene of the crash involving a scholar transport bus and a goods train on the R104 between Arno and Wonderfontein yesterday. 6 learners died and 19 others injured in the collision. Hlengwa has urged residents and the parents to give law enforcement agencies space to investigate.
What happened yesterday is truly tragic and certainly not something that we have expected or what we want. We are looking at programs to enhance behavioral change insofar as driving is concerned. In the country specifically, the country is bleeding over 19 billion rands per annum due to road accidents. The economy comes to a grinding stop because of this. As you can see now, this train is not moving. It's got a direct impact on the economy. Above and beyond, we're losing 12,000 lives every year on our roads.
Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane says the province continues to be a construction site with 22 billion rand worth of road infrastructure under development. He was delivering his opening of the provincial legislature address. Mabuyane says there are 6,000 people working on the road construction projects, adding that there's more to come.
The good news I'm bringing to the people of our province today is that we are not yet done building roads. In the next 5 years, we are going to build, strengthen and improve Eastern Cape Roads network with an investment of more than 50 billion by Sanral.
Judgment has been reserved in the trademark dispute between the ANC and the MK party. The ANC is seeking to appeal the earlier judgment that dismissed its urgent application to stop the MK party from the continued use of the MK name and logo. The ANC argued that the new party was in violation of the Trademarks Act. Advocate Dalim Bofu argued on behalf of the MK party.
As at the time of the registration, which is the 7th of September, the rights, such as they were, did not belong to the ANC. That assignment on their own version kicks in on the 23rd of September. And the issue of locus standi, my lord, it cannot be separated from the other issue we raised of non-joinder. But the importance of why they're intertwined is this, my lord. You can't do what my learned friend is trying to do now. You either say, yes, those rights belong to Legacy Project, at least for that 2-week period, and then the ANC bought them, as it were, after the assignment.
The FF Plus has cemented its alliance with the ANC in the Oudtshoorn municipality in the Little Karoo in the Western Cape. The FF Plus's Johan Ollers was elected as their new mayor today after breaking a coalition with the DA and ousting the former DA mayor Chris McPherson in a motion of no confidence. The ANC's Mziwa Jaja was elected as the deputy mayor and the PA's Suzanne Janssen as the speaker. The FF Plus has coalition agreements in place with the DA in several Western Cape municipalities. The DA has criticized the move, saying this action not only breaks their existing coalition agreements, but also hands the Oudtshoorn municipality back to the ANC. Ola says the decision came about because his party could no longer work with the now former DA mayor. And the Bangladeshi government has banned the country's Jamaat-e-Islami party, its student wing, and other associate bodies, terming the party a militant and terrorist organization. This is part of a nationwide crackdown following weeks of violent protests that have left more than 200 people dead and thousands others injured. The BBC's Anparasane Tirajan has more.
Bangladeshi ministers have accused the party of involvement in the recent violence during protests over reservations in public sector jobs. The party denies the accusation. A leader of the Jamaat had earlier described the move to ban them as illegal, extrajudicial and unconstitutional. The party was effectively barred from taking part in elections in 2013 after a court ruling that its registration as a political party conflicted with Bangladesh's secular constitution.
The top story at 4 o'clock, Deputy Transport Minister Mkhuleko Hlengwa says that the government is losing millions of rand to road crashes across the country, and this has a direct impact on the country's economy. For SAFM News, ke Modupi Makgalemele.
In sports, the Sawa Cheetah determined to make it to Olympic Games final, and Springboks arrive in Australia in high spirits. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Heldnace Interchange, and Pretoria Road in Kempton Park has delays between CR Swart Road and Plain Road. In KZN, the N3 reopened between Key Ridge and Hammersdale after earlier blasting works. The M13 westbound queuing towards Everton Road exit, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound has a crash reported after Rhodes Drive. Bakengracht Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway. Strand Road eastbound in Stikland is slow moving towards the R300 highway, and Brighton Road in Kryfontein slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's the first elimination challenge, and to stay in the competition, the bottom 6 contestants must channel their inner Italian by baking a delicious handmade pizza using leftovers from the fridge. Who will survive to bake another day? Find out on the Tastemaster Junior. Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Mzansi Africa's beautiful game is back. Reigning champions Ezimnyama Ngani want to do it again, but they must conquer their battle against Kevin Hunt and his troops. However, Matatsansa Pitori have a massive plan to march to the semi-final. This is the MTN 8 quarter-final. Wafa Wafa. Orlando Pirates versus SuperSport United. This Saturday, 3 August at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Just about every day we don't have an idea of what is it that moves the national pulse. We certainly want to pick up on a conversation that reflect the conversations that move you. And then as the day progresses, we find them. Lots of comment about today, about the police and what they can and can't do. There's also been some comments about the government of national unity in the light of what Helen Zille said. And we will talk about that later on. Effectively, she's suggesting that she said it on a public platform that in fact it's not a GNU, it's a coalition between the ANC and the DA. Now, yeah, that is going to be one big story, I can tell you. We'll chat in a few minutes' time to the Gauteng MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development, that's Vuyiswa Ramakgopa, regarding the Gauteng Agriculture and Rural Development budget vote. Let's see where their priorities lie. Let's, however, get to an issue that clearly is one of those conversations that has moved you, I know, which is the issue around the Miss South Africa contestant with a Nigerian and Mozambican background, and I'm referring to Chidima Vanessa Adetshina, right? Now, many people have views about it. There's the legal views in terms of legality, in terms of whether the person is a South African citizen. That's one. There's the other part about just how South African are they, how Nigerian is she, how much blood, where's the commitment, which is another whole conversation completely. Having said that, what is clear is there are many people who have used social media and they've made a point of it, of absolutely, can I call it dissing, mobilizing to try and get her out of the Miss South Africa competition, of which is one of the, 12 finalists? I think it is, right? In the meantime, the South African Human Rights Commission, well, they've now commented about it, and they've actually issued a warning against xenophobic comments and maybe other issues around potential cyberbullying, I would think, right, against those that do just that, against the Miss South Africa contestant. With me is Advocate Sandra Mukasha, who's the Commissioner for the South African Human Rights Commission. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us to the National Pulse.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for welcoming to the show.
Thank you. So, you have a position, right, on this issue. What is the position?
Here's the South African Human Rights Commission. We always encourage robust discussion and criticism of public figures and those who occupy those spaces. However, in the protection of the expression of freedom. However, when the criticism of
I think we have Okay, we're better. Let me see if we can get you back on a better line. Okay, we're just struggling to hear you, and I don't want to miss anything that you say. I think it's really important. So let's just let's get Keys to connect with you once again. In the meantime, there's been comments about the Olympic Games.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and Honourable Minister of Sports, Madam Tumi. Thank you so much for what you bring to the show. Happy Women's Month. Yes, you should actually get your own slot. And I just prophesy that over your life, hopefully before the end of the year. Anyways, we're all looking at Tatiana to bring gold home tonight. And I think it fits well for Corbyn, because psychologically she knows there's not much expected from her. So yeah, she might surprise us in bringing home a medal, and then could see her. I see him missing out just on a silver, but he will get a bronze. Have a great show, Flores, here from the Western Cape.
Well, there you are. Thanks for that. The Minister of Sport, our Minister, has probably heard you, and I'll replay that maybe just now for her to get it. Yeah, thank you. I think she'll appreciate the feedback that you give to her. I love the conversations I have with her as well. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, you're right. Tatiana is expected to win gold. The other two that you referred to, if they do anything well, that would be fantastic. If all three can medal, I would be absolutely thrilled. Right, let's see if we now do have Advocate Sandra Mukasha back on the line. I think we do, yeah? Okay, we do have you back on the line. Thanks for joining us once again. Right, so let's go back. I asked you about what is the Human Rights Commission's position regarding particularly this issue against the cyber attacks against the Miss South Africa contestant.
Thank you again, and apologies for that. I'm just on the road. Look, the South African Human Rights Commission encourages robust discussions and people to use their social media platforms to exercise their right for freedom of expression. However, when such comments and criticism amount to xenophobic, sexist, and racist comments, or any form of bullying, or any comment that is prohibited in terms of the provisions of the prevention of unfair discrimination, the members of the public are making such utterances. We first warn them of the legal consequences they may face, but also of the societal impact of their utterances in a country that is built on a legacy of discrimination. And as such, we are concerned by the comments and the criticism leveled at the Miss South Africa contestant.
So which comments are you concerned about? Because I'm saying that in the basis that maybe let's go a step back. If somebody feels initially they'd like to question the eligibility of a person, I mean, that clearly is their right, isn't it? That's not an issue. That's not bullying, right?
Yes.
What is now, have some people, people, organizations, have they crossed the line from a simple question to something that's a lot more sinister for you?
Basically, what we're doing now are monitoring what is happening on social media, and we have picked up those comments that seem to have crossed that line from robust discussions and those conversations that are encouraged in terms of our constitution. And that's where we're saying we're issuing a strong warning against those members of the public, and we're saying that we really need to be cautious because there are dire consequences they may be facing, especially in the legal aspect.
And will you take it up? I mean, do you feel, in terms of what you've seen, is there sufficient grounds to take it up?
Once we've seen that it actually meets those criteria in terms of the Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, we will be taking it up. There are ways that the Commission is allowed to take up complaints, and this is when we receive complaints from members of the public, or we can do it on our own once we've seen this. And we've done this recently when we had the matter in the Eastern Cape against the now former Member of Parliament, Mr. Chris, in the Eastern Cape. And that is one indication of how we monitor social media platforms and take people to be accountable.
Okay, so let's just say hypothetically you find 5 people in particular who are a lot more, robust in terms of their positions regarding the Miss South Africa contestant. Would you then take it up in terms of a legal issue up front, or would it first be a warning to them where you would contact them via their own social media platforms?
We would contact them and give them an opportunity to respond, but given how the person has stated their utterances. But once we note that it falls within the Equality Court, we would then proceed in having a case lodged at the Equality Court.
And they'd be charged for what?
They would be charged in terms of a cyberbullying or criminal injuria, which then they may then face criminal litigation. But that would be outside the Equality Court.
I understand. In terms of what has played out so far, what is your general feeling about it?
The general feeling is that a lot of South Africans do not really understand how to use social media platforms, and that is why I keep emphasizing the use and just people reading the South African Human Rights Commission's social media charter, just to understand that line that we need to often be respectful of and not cross when we are engaging in public comments and participation and expression of our freedom of expression.
Isn't the issue, and I use the example of the Hyde Park corner in London, where that's the soapbox that allows you to say what you want. And in many people's thoughts, they would think that certain social media platforms, right, allows them to have that soapbox they don't have anywhere else.
We understand that, but remember the freedom of expression's right has specific limitations. You cannot then express your rights while violating other people's rights. And that's the reason we don't have any issues with people engaging in robust conversations, in critiquing people and questioning. But once it crosses that line and now it becomes xenophobic, becomes racist, becomes sexist, then we start saying as the Human Rights Commission, we then need to hold these people accountable.
You made the point that the Human Rights Commission itself can identify people or organizations and tackle them on your own, or you can actually wait for a complaint. Have you had a complaint?
Currently, the Human Rights Commission has not received a complaint.
Does that surprise you?
It does surprise me. It is sometimes often people do not understand the role that the Commission plays in these avenues, but also often people don't understand utterances may amount to a form of human rights violation.
Okay, maybe just the last thing. In terms of your role, right, without a complaint, would you, is it within your scope to provide defense for this Miss South Africa contestant, Chidima Vanessa Adechina, not so much in terms of the cyber attacks, but just in terms of there's a challenge to her integrity? Would you then be proactive and provide, if not a legal defense, just a moral defense for her?
We would be providing a defense to the violations of human rights. And that's what we said, essentially, that once the organization says she met the criteria, and you can go further and start saying that you want to engage and have conversations about these. But once it amounts to a violation of human rights, then we step in as the Human Rights Commission.
I see. Understand that. Let's leave it at that. Appreciate you giving off your time. That's Advocate Sandra Bukwasha. I wonder whether you, as an audience now, have a better perspective of just what you can and can't say on social media. There we are. That issue clearly will still take its course, I understand, because there's been comments from different people, organizations, and maybe the ultimate comment has got to come from Home Affairs, although I think the flip side of that is that, in fact, can they actually provide publicly information about someone privately, meaning, in terms of public information and what you can share? Can they do that on their own? If the answer is no, can they do that now? Because this is an issue that is in the public discourse. It is certainly something that matters to all of us publicly. It's not so much a private issue. I wonder whether you have any thoughts on that. 086 000 2032.
When Freddie, a troubled woman, is nearly assaulted outside a nightclub, the toilet attendant steps in to help. Baba, a former child soldier, acts with swift, unstoppable brutality. She's entranced. The pair form an instant, intoxicating connection. Something dark within both of them quickly emerges. Soon, they set about exacting revenge on people from Freddy's past. Baba's skill for violence and Freddy's tinge of psychopathy prove a lethal combination. But they are not the only ones on the hunt. We hunt together, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 24th of July. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime. Only on S3. Open up.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, bro, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit. The leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Witness the global battle of great athletes from South Africa and from all over the world in the Olympic Games Paris 2024. From the heart-pounding races on the track to the graceful routines on the gymnastics floor, each event promises to deliver moments of sheer brilliance and sporting excellence. Live the intense rivalries, inspiring comebacks, and record-breaking performances right here across all SABC TV channels, SABC radio stations, on the move with SABC Plus, or online on sabcsport.com. # the global battle of great athletes. The Olympic Games Paris 2024. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, we've had comments from people, and here's one. If the police repeatedly use excessive force and shoot to kill unnecessarily, it can be argued that they are acting as police-killing machines. Now, this phrase suggests a lack of regard for human life and a failure to prioritize de-escalation techniques leading to unnecessary fatalities. Excessive use of force by police can be attributed to various factors, including poor training, lack of accountability, systemic racism and bias, over-militarization of police force, inadequate emphasis and de-escalation techniques, and such behavior undermines trust in law enforcement and can lead to social unrest, protests, and calls for reform. It's essential for police forces to prioritize. I hear what you're saying, interesting thoughts, but you have to also see that in the context of what we have rampant crime around the country. Here's a comment on the GNU.
Thank you, Mam Zile, for telling the truth. Thank you so much. Yeah, wow. Thank you. As we always say, this is not a GNU. Thank you, Mam Zile. I love you. For the first time, I love you.
Oh, my goodness. I love you. There we are. Strange things happen on the air. It's called the National Pulse. Wonder what's your pulse rate like now? Yeah, okay. It's not even Valentine's Day. Here's another one on Gayton McKenzie.
Mr. McKenzie, I think I will stand with you. What you were saying before the election, while you were still campaigning, I was also even wishing if maybe you were Minister of Home Affairs, but I would like it to proceed. You don't take any nonsense when you're approaching something which is not maybe correlating with our constitution, or it doesn't belong to our country.
Okay, got that. In fact, we'll pick up a call in just a moment. Here's a comment on some of the earlier conversations we had.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. Here's what moves my pulse. The International Criminal Court is as useless an institution as the African Union. They issued an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu and the leader of Hamas, but that was a strategy to silence dissenting voices, particularly South Africa. And how much did we spend as a country by going to the International Criminal Court, and was peace achieved? Look how Israel continues with its onslaught and how we are bombarded by disinformation and misinformation about powerless arrest warrants. Couldn't that money have been spent on the war against crime in South Africa? Why do our leaders involve themselves in matters that they should not, and the matters that require their full attention, they do not? I guess they are obsessed with publicity. Thanks, Lionel Whitbank.
Well, I'll tell you what, lots of the thoughts that you have, I can comment. There's not enough time, excepting that perhaps the way you voiced it, you sound like a reporter. I'm just saying, hint, hint. Okay, let's get on to other issues now. Many of the provinces presenting certain budgets in relation to the state of their own provinces. And that applies to Gauteng province with regard to the agricultural and rural development budget votes. So with me today is the Gauteng MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development. That's Vuyiswa Ramakgopa, because earlier on today, the MEC tabled her department's budget vote. So let's try and understand, because, budget votes reflect priorities, right? Let's find out what came through with the MEC. Good chatting to you, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse. Do I have you there? Maybe not, MEC.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I certainly can. Good chatting to you on the National Pulse. I last saw you hurrying and scurrying at the results centre just after the election, and that's a long, long time ago, it seems. Right?
It feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, you have a new position now, right? So what are your priorities? What came through in the budget vote?
No, so Ashraf, we communicated that, we really have three main priorities. Number one is to end hunger. We have a serious crisis of urban hunger. Close to 35% of our province is actually classified as food insecure. And this is one of those issues that just goes undetected under the radar. We have to take urgent action around it. The second key priority, and it's linked to the first one, is the commercialization and mainstreaming of small-scale and emerging farmers. We have to, again, be able to activate these peri-urban and rural economies. And small-scale farming really presents an opportunity for people who otherwise wouldn't have a lot of opportunities to create and produce close to where they live and not have to actually trek into the inner city to go and find work. Mm-hmm. And then, again, that links to the third priority, which is we need to deal with the crisis of unemployment, and we have made a commitment that we are going to be focusing on looking for opportunities and facilitating sustainable job creation. We're not just in the business of chasing numbers to say we created however many thousand jobs. It doesn't help if those jobs are not sustainable. And so for us, it's really about, creating those partnerships with the private sector, working with international parties as well, and seeing where we can drive investment and economic growth of our province that can deliver long-term sustainable jobs.
Right. So practically, how do you implement? That budget vote reflects the problems in the province and also the ideals to alleviate the problems that we just mentioned. How then practically do you work that through?
Yeah, so there are a number of programs that exist under those three buckets that I've just spoken to. So, for example, on priority one around hunger, we're really focusing there on capacitating subsistence farming and actually home-based farming. And that involves training interventions, actually supplying people with the necessary inputs that they need, and making sure that they have the ability to start their own community gardens or local food production capabilities. And then secondly, on the commercialization aspect, there we're looking at a whole different a number of mechanisms, funding mechanisms, market access opportunities, literally setting up farmers markets and enabling retail opportunities for up-and-coming small-scale farmers. And similarly, with the job creation, we're not just talking about a word called job creation. We're saying we must industrialize. Gauteng is the industrial engine of this country, and unfortunately, we just haven't been able to get, that industrialization going at the peak level at which it should. But agro-processing is one of those areas, and agro-processing is a broad term. It speaks to the most entry-level manufacturing. You could be manufacturing health products. You could be value-adding on fresh produce, hair products, and all kinds of things. And we have a number of producers currently who are already within our programs, who are already recipients of our funding, who are now being able to actually develop these businesses. They are manufacturing in Kempton Park. They're manufacturing in Wynberg. And all different parts of the province. And that is the only way, Ashraf, that we will actually be able to see, to turn the corner on the unemployment.
Now, I wish we had more time. We don't have more time, unfortunately, to talk about this, excepting maybe one last question, right? And I know that's come through from your political party in terms of a key agenda, which is the issue of hunger, right? And that's come through in terms of your budget, right? Maybe just give us a quick sense as we get to news time. How big a problem, either anecdotally or in numbers, is South Africa's hunger problem? And in this case, obviously, Gauteng.
No, it's a massive problem. I mean, Gauteng obviously is the most populous province, 16 million people. 5.5 million of those are classified as food insecure. You've got 20% basically of children under the age of 5 who suffer from stunting in our country. And that has obviously a whole host of other challenges down the line, from education, ability to learn, health risks, etc. So it is a major crisis. And as I said, close to 1/3 really of people in our country are described as food insecure. That is unfathomable in a middle income, net exporting food country like ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so we are really trying to, prioritize that issue and say, whether you work or you don't work, whether you live in the city or live in a rural area, at the very least, our Constitution guarantees you the right to food, and we need to put a plan into action to make that possible.
And can we deliver on that constitutional right? I think that's one of the big questions. Thank you for your time. MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development in the Gauteng region, Vuyiswa Ramakgopa. Perhaps a longer conversation about some of those big issues sometime down the line. Slightly delayed. Let's get the news headlines now with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In your headlines, authorities say KwaZulu-Natal continues to bear the brunt of South Africa's rhino poaching crisis. Deputy Transport Minister Mkhuleko Hlengwa says government is losing millions of rand to road crashes across the country, and this has a direct impact on the country's economy. And police have fired tear gas to disperse crowds of protesters in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, as thousands rallied against the escalating cost of living and governance issues in Africa's most populous nation. And those are your headlines. A full update with Greg at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Heldnace Interchange, and Pretoria Road in Kempton Park has delays between CR Swart Road and Plain Road. In KZN, the N3 reopened between Key Ridge and Hammersdale after earlier blasting works. The M13 westbound queuing towards Everton Road exit, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound has a crash reported after Rhodes Drive. Bakencrag Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway. Strand Road eastbound in Stickland is slow moving towards the R300 highway, and Brighton Road in Kraaifontein slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, well, we had a nice compliment. I'll maybe play that soundbite later on about the Minister of Sport. You are, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk Olympics again.
Yeah, we're talking Olympics, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that is looking forward to the track and field. And as we know, there are Khanis and Beanies of this world. I'm just going to put a spotlight on a South African middle distance runner by the name of Tshepo Chite. He says that he's determined to reach the final of the men's 1500 meter as he prepares to make his Olympic Games debut in Paris. Chite and Ryan Mphahlele will kick off Team South Africa's athletics proceedings in the heats, and that is around 11:05 at the start of France tomorrow morning. And Chite says that he will be pleased if he can get through the preliminary rounds to reach the final, which is scheduled for the 6th of August around 10-9.
I'm not nervous. I'm excited. Especially if I go there with 1500 meters. I'm really happy because I believe that my dream gonna come true. Because remember, my dream so far is all about to get into the finals, nothing more. Because I know once I go to the finals, everything is possible on the final. Especially when it comes to major championship, you can predict who's gonna win, especially if you are on the final.
Well, wishing him nothing but the best. But we move on to football. SuperSport United have unveiled 3 more new signings as they continue to bolster their squad ahead of the 2024-25 Betway Premiership. Matsatsanza Apitori confirmed the arrivals of Brooklyn Pogenpool, Keenan Aya and Takashani Mbandwa. Now, Pogenpool joins SuperSport from Chipa United on a 1-year deal with a 2-year option to renew, while goalkeeper Mbandwa, who played for Morocco Swallows, has signed a 1-year deal with an option to renew, and Aya has joined the side from Denmark on a free transfer. Meanwhile, Stellenbosch FC coach Steve Barker has suggested that he's been assured that none of his key players will leave the club during the current transfer window. Captain Diano van Rooyen is wanted by Orlando Pirates, while left back Fawaz Bazadine is on the Kaizer Chiefs wish list. And speaking ahead of the MTN 8 quarterfinal clash against TS Galaxy on Sunday, Baxter says that, or Barker rather, says that he was still confident that Stellies will not budge.
I think I've been long enough in the game, and players, it is that time of the season where there's always talk, and players, maybe clubs interested in your players, but I think our players are happy where they are. We have shown that we can compete to win medals and trophies. We've shown competitiveness in the league. We're now playing in the Intercontinental club competition. So, the players are excited to be part of that journey and to help the club continue grow and continue to be successful.
Borussia Dortmund have announced the signing of Germany midfielder Pascal Gross from Premier League club Brighton and Hove on a 2-year deal. German media reported that Dortmund paid a fee of about 10 million euros, that's 196 million rand, including bonuses to sign the 33-year-old. Then in rugby, the Springboks touched down in Australia in high spirits. This is following an overnight flight from Johannesburg, and will have the rest of the day to recover from the long journey before resuming with their on-field preparations tomorrow. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus' 33-man squad laid a good foundation for the 2-test tour in Johannesburg on Monday and Tuesday before leaving for Brisbane via Sydney in the evening. Now, the Boks will kick off their 2024 edition of the Castle Lager Rugby Championship at the Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane on the 10th of August before making a trip to Perth for the second clash against the Wallabies on the 17th of August at the Optus Stadium. With that said, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
So let's get the excitement going. I mean, I take it you'll be fully committed to watching
Absolutely.
tonight, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was up yesterday and I made sure, I was like, do I wait? Obviously, Tatiana is going to make it through. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to stick it through. And it's always worth it. So whoever feels sleepy before the action tonight, please don't sleep. It's worth it.
Well, you must set your alarm. That's what I did on Monday night. Monday night, I knew she was racing after 9.
Yeah.
And I was rather moch, right? So I set the alarm for 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
In case because I was reading a book, in case I dozed off.
The thing with me, if I sleep, I will snooze it and I will not wake up.
And lose it, yeah. Anyway, but I mean, yeah. Then yesterday I didn't watch because I said, I'll watch the final.
Yeah. But it's
very
always,
confident. Tonight we'll see.
It's always worth it. So she is competing today, 11 minutes past 9, and Peter is around 20:38.
Well, here's a shout out. I want to find out from anybody listening in, wherever you are. You know when you watch like a big rugby, cricket or football game and you're watching groups, would you do the same thing for a night where we potentially can get to 3 medals, 3 more?
Yeah.
Potentially. 1 gold, very, very possible, right? Would you sit in groups like family groups of 5, 10, 15, or would you just be watching it by yourself? If you can, I'd love to know. You can WhatsApp 0614 104 107 or perhaps call into 086 000 2032. Your Olympic story for tonight. Thanks. We'll chat again tomorrow.
Next hour.
1 hour time.
Next hour.
More to come. Absolutely.
I'm still here.
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
SA Schools football comes alive on the 9th and 10th of August 2024 at Sarah Park Wits University for the SA Schools National Championship from 9 a.m. daily. The best under 15 boys and girls representing their province's school teams will battle it out to try and be selected into the under 15 schools national team. Bring your family and camp chairs to support your provincial under 15 team. If you're not in Gauteng, catch the games on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus. For more details, visit safa.net. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's tell me the story where you've been watching tonight, the Olympic. South Africans in the pool, okay? In the meantime, let's talk numbers. Makwe Masilela, as always, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good chatting to you. You've got thoughts on, Mondi PLC and then other market developments, right?
Yes, definitely. Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Remember, Mondi is a global leader when it comes to the production of sustainable packaging and paper, and the market conditions are improving, resulting in stronger order books and higher sales volumes, which help them to be able to implement a number of price increases across their paper grades. But the second half is expected to be impacted by higher plant maintenance shuts and a likely forestry fair value loss, and revenue unfortunately was down 4%. Overall financial performance, which is EBITDA, down 17%, and profits before tax down 29%. And yes, July was not a bad month for stocks as the local bourse, the JSE, gained 3.6% for the month, the Dow up 4.4%, S&P up 1.1%, and the Red fell almost 1%. And last night, the U.S. Central Bank chair signaled that an interest rate cut was no longer that far, and noted that the prospect of lower rates present more liquidity for stock markets, which bodes well for valuations. And the Bank of England managed to cut their interest rate, and they were helped mainly by the casting vote of their governor, and the guys offered no timing on the next move. We saw the pound falling, and the Middle East tension overpowered by demand concerns. Brent crude is down 0.9% at $80.74, and the U.S. Central Bank chief comments last night are propelling the yellow metal to highs, but a rebounding U.S. dollar is limiting the shine, and we see gold as it is now is up only 0.1% at 2,450, with platinum down 0.9% at 969, and so far it's a sea of red when it comes to markets, with profit taking kicking in, and also this weak economic data is starting to raise worries about the global economics. The DAX, just like the CAC, down 1.7%, FTSE down 0.5%, the Dow is down 0.7%, S&P is down 0.3%, the JSE is down 0.8%, with our resources down almost 2%, industrial is down 0.6%, financial is down 0.5%, and the rand is 18.11 against the US dollar, 23.22 against the pound, and 19.58 against the euro.
Okay, that's it. It's all important issues. Appreciate your time, Makwe Masilela. We'll talk again tomorrow, but more market update coming up in another hour's time, right? We're going to get to your calls after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Here's one, the Miss South Africa, quite complex issue. I mean, I think we are running in circles now. And I mean, the discussion was worth having, and I don't think it was meant to hurt. Well, I think that's the question. I think one can ask up front, but this is what's coming through. There's a difference between asking and actually hounding a person out. That's where the cyberbullying comes into play, okay? From the same person, Olympics, I'll be watching alone, Ashraf. Oh, my goodness, you shouldn't be watching alone. I'm just making the point. You should not be watching alone. Let's see if we've got some further comments, because there's been other issues that we've had, certainly on policing, but the issue of taxi drivers and e-hailing services. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Hey, taxi drivers. Taxi drivers are very terrorizing us here, Mr. Ashraf, in Soweto. Jablan Mall today, as in today, they are fighting us. Hey, we have been terrorized for putting food on the table for our family. Even if we run to the police station, or even if we run to our government, nothing is happening to us as e-hailing. Nothing. We've been killed like, I don't know, like what. It's very painful, Mr. Ashraf. To die putting food for your kids.
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry about that. One, nobody should die for exactly what you said, putting food on the table for yourself or your children. And then the complexity of this issue is like, I thought this was cleared up. I mean, you're doing a legal job, right? Again, this is another issue to do with policing and safety and security. So if I'm hosting a show right now and someone is hosting another show and I don't want them to host that show, can I just bump them off because I think they're getting too much of a limelight? Like, I can't do that. So why do we think it's okay with regard to, transport? The truth is that innovation, where people are going to try and grow their businesses, will always happen anywhere in the world. But we can't do this. And I hear what you're saying, and I'm sorry, but I think it's also continuing all the time. So let's see if we can get some of the other callers on the line. I'll just check with Keys. We're going to chat to KG first up. Hi, KG.
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, I just want to comment on this racism saga that seems to be rearing their heads time and again.
Okay, go ahead.
You know what, Ashraf? For the longest of time, black people have usually been made to feel that they don't belong. In this case, they don't belong to the east of Pretoria. They don't belong to the suburbs. They don't belong to certain private schools. And that stems from what I'm saying, that they're made to feel that they don't belong. And South Africa is a diverse country, and I accept and I appreciate the diversity. But South Africa in its diversity, Ashraf, in my view, and in my opinion, and I strongly believe in what I'm about to say now, South Africa does not belong to everyone that lives in it. South Africa is for a country. Black people have been dispossessed of the view of belonging to this country. So that's all that I wanted to say, Ashraf, in this regard.
All right. But I mean, on that, can we not say, I hear all the things you've said before, and I concur with you. I mean, that's why inclusion is critically important. But can we not just say South Africa is a country for South Africans? And within that, the different people that live here must learn to make spaces for each other.
Yeah, Ashraf, that's, I don't know how to actually say it, but you know what? In everything else, there's owners, there's guests, there's everything. No one owns everything, or everyone owns one particular thing. I didn't want to go to that point, but it is a fact. In each and every country, there's no any other country apart from South Africa where everyone that belongs in that country, everyone that stays in that country.
No, but I think, okay, I hear you, but I think if you're a citizen of the country, first of all, everybody can live in the country if they're allowed to visit there or live there. They get a visa to live there, even a working visa without being a citizen. But in many countries, if you're a citizen of the country, then you're a citizen. You have an equal right, never mind when you came, whether you came there for 5 years or whether you've been there for 500 years. That clearly is an issue. Let's get to thanks for that call. Anyway, KG, let's just check out if there's another call. I'm going to check. In fact, we're going to go to Errol in Durban. Hi, Errol.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you, Rob?
Yeah, good indeed. Go ahead. Errol, yeah.
Hello? Okay. That chappie TG was way out of line to say that you, the media, support these criminals just because you talk about them. No, he was way out of line. I know Stephen Schroeder was also accused of supporting a certain political party just because he spoke about them more than the other parties. So, it's... but anyway... You know this Hamas leader that was killed.
Yeah.
I do feel sorry for his family. I definitely do. But I find it hard to feel a bit sorry for him because, there's more likelihood that he supported the October the 7th attacks, because we don't know about that, and the using of human shields. Look, if he didn't support them being a moderate, he could have stepped down or resigned from the party.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that because we are out of time. But I mean, I hear you. Look, it's a very, very complex issue. And I'll say this much. In terms of where the problems in the Middle East started, firstly, and it started a long time ago, I'm very clear, Balfour Declaration is where the problem started. Within that, there's a lot of tit for tat that's taking place. And some of the issues, claims made, refuted, we don't quite know. In terms of what's happened now, many of his family members that you say you feel sorry for them, they don't exist anymore. They've been killed, right? And the other part, and I'll just stay with this one here, is it okay to kill a person, assuming the person's wrong? Can you kill a person in another country, outside your domain? Can you assassinate another person? Is that okay? Just think about that. All right, we'll get to. Thanks for that, Errol. Let's get to other calls, and we have an issue around Google that you'd be very, very interested in to grow your business.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's the first elimination challenge, and to stay in the competition, the bottom 6 contestants must channel their inner Italian by baking a delicious handmade pizza using leftovers from the fridge. Who will survive to bake another day? Find out on the Tastemaster Junior. Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
SA Schools football comes alive on the 9th and 10th of August 2024 at Sarawak Park, Wits University for the SA Schools National Championship from 9 a.m. daily. The best under 15 boys and girls representing their province's school teams will battle it out to try and be selected into the under 15 schools national team. Bring your family and camp chairs to support your provincial under 15 team. If you're not in Gauteng, catch the games on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus. For more details, visit safa.net. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, another call on the issue of policing in Ntokozo in Mpangeni. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Right, go ahead. What's your point?
Yes. According to my understanding, sir, the purpose of arresting someone is to bring them before the court so they can be held accountable for their delinquent deed, or they must be proved guilty or otherwise. Now, police officials hold the right to search, seize, and arrest, according to Section 25, 26, 27, and 28 of Criminal Procedure Act 61 of 1977. However, a minimum force can be used to effect arrest, but if a police official believes that his or her life is endangered by the person he is trying to arrest, then police officials are forced to use excessive force, which can lead to Section 49 Act 51 of 1977, which encourages the use of deadly force.
Well, I mean, that's the point. You know, nobody wants to use deadly force, but how do you negotiate with someone who's about to kill you and say, hold it, just hold it, I want to take you to court? That's exactly the issue. Thanks for that call, Ntokozo. I like the fact that we get, regular callers, new callers, male, female, and we don't always get too many people from Mpangeni in KZN, but like it when you do call, as well as like it when you do call from the city of Joburg or Soweto, as we had earlier on regarding, but also for issues that are not, excuse me, issues that are not that great anyway. But there's an issue that's pretty great that I want to talk about now. Google has just announced the 8th cohort of its Startups Accelerator Africa program, and it features 10 innovative startups from Nigeria, Kenya, Rwanda, and South Africa. So let's find out more about it with Folarin Ayegbusi, who's the head of startups for Google in Africa. Good chatting to you, and you're live with the National Pulse. Hi.
Hi, good evening, Ashraf. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm always impressed by the power of Google in terms of using its power to create even new business for startups. What's the plan this time around?
Definitely. It's still this. We're doing a 3-month program, 10 to 12 weeks, supporting the 10 startups from across the continent. Like you said, we have a number from Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Rwanda, and we're going to take them through mentorship on technical and business. Workshops on similar, and then access to investors, our investor pool at the end of the program.
So explain the process. When you say the program, what actually takes place?
Sure. So the Google for Startup Accelerator program, we like to say it connects startups to the best of Google in terms of our people, our methodologies, and our technologies. What we run 3 boot camps through this program, where we connect them on the tech and products theme, tech and people theme, and then tech and growth theme. We run them through workshops such as investor readiness, corporate governance, Firebase, TensorFlow, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and much more. We come to experts from across not just the African continent or their countries, but also global, global experts in the technical domain, but also business experts as well, to support the startups journey, to mentor them on the different challenges that they're currently facing, and then help them solve those challenges and help them scale. And for the final thing, we have something called a demo day, where the startups go through a pitching session. They pitch their businesses or their startups to a number of investors, not just in Africa, but globally, and they go on to receive funding.
Okay, so where are we now? I mean, in terms of in terms of the process you referred to, where are you now with it?
Sure. So we actually announced the latest selection this week. We had received about 1,000 applications for the program. We had 2 levels of review before an interview stage, and after that, selection committee and due diligence. And we finally landed at the 10 startups out of the 1,000 that's applied for the program. 1%, the 1,000 that applied for the program are participating. So we're currently running the bootcamp. It's currently live, it's running now, and we're currently running the bootcamp.
Okay, and in the past, I mean, you've had some of the ones I know in South Africa too, right? But and certainly throughout the continent, what impact does it have? I mean, ultimately, I'm thinking about a startup business in these regions, and what do you want to do? You want to give them the type of startup that would dramatically change their businesses and grow them into a Google, perhaps, isn't it?
Definitely. We actually conducted research recently and saw that the startups that had gone through our programs, right, had raised over $260 million in follow-on funding. It's not just about this number, it's about the knock-on effect of this number. Think of startups raising these sorts of numbers, and in their communities, right, they go on to create jobs as a result of the funding. They go on to solve solutions that are nascent or particular to their different communities, and they go on to become global businesses. Google started all the way in Mountain View, in Silicon Valley, and all the rest, and it scaled into different parts of the world. Now think about African startups doing the same. Part of our mission here is to have these startups that we're supporting or that are going through our programs, they raise the funding, they go through mentorship, and they build scalable businesses that solve problems for South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, Nigeria, the African continent, and then global.
So who are these startups this time around that you've selected?
Sure. So I maybe rather than talk through all of them, I can share maybe 1 or 2 examples.
That's fine.
I think especially the South African one. So for South Africa specifically, we're supporting a startup called Fixer. Fixer, they essentially connect car owners and businesses to transparent and convenient on-location vehicle maintenance services. So think about a case where your car breaks down, you're on the highway and your car breaks down, and who do you go to? What do you do? Well, we have a startup here that provides a solution to that. What they do is through their platform, they connect you to localized service and reliable and local service for an affordable fee, right? We've had similar stuff like that, or in other verticals, in South Africa over the years, and we see that this startup has a lot of potential. This is one of them. Another example is a startup called Lifestone Health in Rwanda. What they are essentially doing is connecting individuals and businesses again to innovative health and wellness solutions, leveraging artificial intelligence as well, that allow for improved mental, physical, and nutritional health.
All sounds very, very exciting. I'll take a keen interest in this. What's in it for Google?
Well, for us, we're in the business of making everyone happy and making successful. So similarly, when you think about our mission as Google to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible, it's similar for accelerators as well. It's to support businesses or individuals as founders and help them scale across globally. So we think of it this way, with another mantra saying that a rising tide lifts all boats. When you think about what that means, it essentially means that you help one startup succeed, you help all startups succeed, then you help the country succeed and you help the continent succeed. Now, if the continent succeeds, then we succeed in our business as well. So that is what is in it for Google.
Well, I always say when I win, South Africa wins, and maybe we can apply the same principle to when we win, Africa wins. So I completely concur with you on this issue. Tell you what, feel free to tag us with some of the information. Just tag SAFM Radio and myself. I'll gladly share that on our social media platforms, and I'll keep an eye on this journey of these 10 very, very significant startups. For Lauren Ayekbusi, head of startups for Google in Africa. Are you excited? I am. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock with Greg Hose.
Thank you, Ashraf. Renewed concern over rhino poaching in protests across Nigeria. Good day to you. KwaZulu-Natal continues to bear the brunt of South Africa's rhino poaching crisis. In a statement, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment says 145 rhino were poached in the first 6 months of this year. This is almost two-thirds of the national figure of 229 rhinos lost to poaching. Minoshni Pele reports.
In a statement, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment has welcomed what it's called a downward trend in rhino poaching so far this year. At KwaZulu-Natal's Shushluwe Mfolozi Park, it would appear that the decision to dehorn its rhino population since April is yielding positive results. In the same reporting period, over 60 suspects have been arrested and 20 heavy caliber firearms recovered in relation to rhino poaching and rhino horn trafficking. Minoshni Pillay, SABC News, Durban.
Cape Town authorities say rabies in the Cape fur seal population is unlikely to be eradicated and should now be considered endemic. They say it will require ongoing and long-term management by coastal authorities. Experts recently convened a scientific workshop focusing on probing the possible causes of the increase in the frequency of unusual and unprovoked Cape fur seal bites and aggression. The City of Cape Town's Greg Olofse says initial indications are that rabies was transmitted to seals from another wildlife population and not from local domestic dogs.
We can now confirm that the rabies virus has become endemic in the Cape fur seal population. This is the first time globally that the rabies virus is endemic in any marine mammal species. And if you do come across a seal that's behaving particularly aggressively, is to move away from the seal and to contact the authorities as soon as possible. Vaccinations for people is not necessary at this time, but if you do by chance get bitten by a seal, which is very unlikely, but the recommendation is that you urgently seek medical attention.
The Deputy Minister of Transport, Mkhuleko Hlengwa, says government is losing millions of rands to road crashes across the country, and this has a direct impact on the country's economy. He was addressing the media at the scene of a crash involving a Scarlet transport bus and a goods train near Middelburg and in Mpumalanga. 6 learners died and 19 were injured in the collision. The Deputy Ministers urged residents and the parents of the scholars to give the law enforcement agency space to investigate the crash.
What happened yesterday is truly tragic and certainly not something that we have expected or what we want. We are looking at programs to enhance behavioral change insofar as driving is concerned. In the country specifically, the country is bleeding over 19 billion rands per annum due to road accidents. The economy comes to a grinding stop because of this. As you can see now, this train is not moving. It's got a direct impact on the economy. Above and beyond, we're losing 12,000 lives every year on our road.
A man convicted of assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm and attempted murder has been given a life sentence by the Malumwelele Regional Court in Limpopo. Usani Chauke assaulted and stabbed his girlfriend with whom he has a child. She lost an eye in the assault. Police have welcomed the sentence. Finally, police have fired tear gas to disperse crowds of demonstrators in Nigeria's capital city, Abuja, as thousands rallied against escalating cost of living and governance issues in Africa's most populous nation. Demonstrators protested in Abuja, the commercial capital Lagos, and several other cities to show discontent with economic reforms that have led to rampant inflation and inflicted increasing hardship on ordinary Nigerians. After taking office more than a year ago, the Nigerian leader, Bola Tinubu, removed some fuel subsidies, devalued the local currency and hiked electricity tariffs, moves that have sent inflation soaring past 34%. The top story is that KZN continues to bear the brunt of South Africa's rhino poaching crisis. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Hoos.
In your sports this hour, Smith one swim away from winning another Olympic Games gold medal, and Jen stands Swiatek to reach Olympic tennis final. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four ways has a crash after a Rivonia Road exit. The R24 eastbound in Kempton Park is slow moving towards the R21 airport interchange. The M1 southbound is queuing through Crown interchange towards Boysons. In Midrand, the N1 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Buccleuch interchange, and the N1 northbound slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound in Isipingo has a crash reported before Joyner Road exit. exit, and the N3 westbound has a truck crash reported before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange, the road being closed and that causing some heavy traffic. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound queuing towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Mzansi Africa's beautiful game is back. Reigning champions Ezimnyama Ngani want to do it again, but they must conquer their battle against Kevin Hunt and his troops. However, Matsatsansa Pitori have a massive plan to march to the semi-final. This is the MTN 8 quarter-final. Wafa Wafa. Orlando Pirates versus SuperSport United. This Saturday, 3 August at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
South Africa's always often been accused, at least for the better part of the last 20 years, of being a country that loses investment opportunity because of policy uncertainty.
I think it's important to state what we've always stated, which is that transformation is not an act of charity. It's not a donation or gift to black people. It is an imperative in this country to address the historic injustices in this country and ensure that black people are able to have equitable access to economic opportunities. But it's also in the interest of the economy because, in fact, if you broaden the base of entrepreneurs in this country, you're creating better competitiveness. You don't have a limited number of entrepreneurs, but you broaden the base of entrepreneurs that are able to contribute towards economic prosperity and job creation.
The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Minister Baxter.
Night Talk, Monday to Thursdays, 10 to midnight. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Which means you need to listen to Oliver Dixon's show tonight. Don't miss it. As always, a good show that you need to listen to. Maybe after the Olympic Games victories. I'm just saying, okay, these things happen, right? Okay, lots more we need to cover. There's people commenting about unemployment, which I think is a big issue. The issue of hunger, the issue of the GNU and Zuma being spot on. I'll try and get to that as soon as possible. And the other broader issue that I raised earlier on about this being Women's Month, day one of Women's Month. How do we measure? What's the barometer? How do we measure in terms of women asserting themselves over maybe let's say 10 categories, a matrix of 10? How do we measure what women have done and achieved? Or do we just say, let's celebrate Women's Month once a year and that's it? There's got to be more. And if you know, are we measuring it? Are we able to tabulate and say, this is actually what has happened? Or we don't know. Okay, let's get into another issue. How do you measure the government of national unity? So Helen Zille The federal chair of the DA was a guest on a conversation that was had today at the Friedrich Naumann Foundation Dialogue, right? And she spoke about many things. But amongst the things she said, I'll tell you what, there's a lot that you need to consider on this issue that I think I need to read out. She said, from the beginning, and I'm quoting her, President Ramaphosa came up with this notion of a government of national unity, which he thought would be a better way. Okay, that thing is gone. I'll get to that. She said that the government of national unity, he thought would be a better way of selling the concept of a coalition to his own party. As far as the GNU is concerned, Zilla said, a government of national unity brings all the parties together that would include the EFF and the MK party, which it did not. But it still gave the president the fig leaf he needed to bring in all sorts of smaller parties to say, I'm not in a coalition with the DA. Now, the truth is that we, that's the DA and the ANC, are actually in a coalition, because a coalition means that if a party withdraws from the coalition, then the party falls. Okay. Comment. What do you make of that? This is not you calling in or me calling in and giving my opinion. This is someone who's a key member of the GNU. She may correct me, giving her thoughts on a very, very public platform. What are the implications of this? Professor Dirk Coetzee with me, political analyst from the University of South Africa. Appreciate your time, Prof. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
I would think that if I were the ANC, I promise you my pulse rate would be boiling.
Well, what she said is the political reality, unfortunately. And maybe just to set it out quickly. A coalition is formed when no party has a majority of 50% plus one. So that the biggest party needs, or in some cases, smaller parties come together in order to find that position of 50% plus one. The moment you have passed 50% plus one, you have a coalition. And normally the coalitions are as small as possible. In the case of a government of national unity, and we can think about the one of 1994, the ANC had a majority of 62%. But the agreement in the negotiations was that all the parties with more than 10% or more could be represented in the government of national unity. So of the 9 parties, only 3 of them were there. So it's not that it is all-inclusive, that all parties had to be there in order to qualify as a government of national unity.
I hear you. But you see, here's the issue, right? I don't think it's about understanding the definitions. What I'm saying is, we can have this debate all day long about who said what. The point is, and I know we've argued the point when we've had callers telling even me, Ashraf, do not call it the GNU. And I've said a grouping that comes together can actually call themselves the umbrella group for all I care. We then bound to repeat what they call it because that's how they frame themselves. Now, the difference is this is not somebody else calling in. This is somebody who's part of that grouping who effectively is now saying this is not a GNU. Now, my question to you, therefore, what does this do regarding the unity of this government of national unity?
Well, they are actually both, in my opinion. They are both a coalition as well as a government of national unity. That's why I gave you that background, in order that the listeners also can understand it, which is actually quite a unique position when you look at it. The point is that the ANC and the DA are completely interactively dependent on each other. The one cannot exist in a government without the other one. And that's the political reality. You can present it in whatever way you want to do it, but if the DA withdraws from the current government of national unity and the ANC goes to the smaller parties or the rest of the government of national unity, they don't have a majority of 50% plus one. The only option then for the ANC is to form a coalition with MK. Not even with the EFF, they can form a coalition government with a majority. So this is the political landscape. This is the political reality. At this stage, they have exercised this one option, and that is of having a coalition with the the DA plus these other smaller parties.
Okay, but I mean, if I can just move on to, for me, the most pertinent issue here, right? What I'm saying is I understand a lot of negotiations takes place behind the scenes and they come up with a solid public agreement, and that's fine, right? I'm saying to you that a significant leader of one party within the government of national unity is in fact saying this is not a government of national unity. And I'm suggesting, therefore, that can't ride. That has serious implications in terms of the brand GNU, and therefore has serious implications in terms of their working together, their working relationship. It can't just be left alone.
Well, I've never heard John Steenhuisen said it's not a government of national unity. They work in this as a government of national unity. And the point is that Helen Zille can have her interpretations of it, but this is a de facto government of national unity. 70% of the total number of seats in Parliament are represented in the government in this government.
All right, I hear you, but what I'm saying, Helen Zille may not be the leader of the DA, but Helen Zille has tremendous clout and influence in the DA, including even effectively anointing the leader of the DA.
No, she is not. She's not the leader.
And I didn't say she's the leader.
And the two other, Ivan Meyer is the national chairperson of the federal chairperson. They have a leadership of three at the top.
No,
so Helen Zille is an important person, but I don't think people become very preoccupied with Helen Zille and that she speaks on behalf of everything of that DA, and it's not true. And in this case, she's not even a member of the cabinet.
So do you think her words have no influence?
So she is obviously an important person, but people should not focus exclusively on Helen Zille. There are different ways in which this thing is interpreted. The point is, in practice, in the practical terms, this government at this point in time is working. They had the cabinet, the Khotla, it didn't explode, it didn't fracture, it didn't go in all sorts of directions. They came together and they started to form the different ministries.
All right. So if it's working, then why would Helen Zille feel the need to express her opinion publicly? She's not just a supporter of the DA. I'm saying to you, she's a significant player within DA politics.
That's very true. She is. So we have to ask her why she did that, because I'm quite sure that the majority of people in the DA is not saying exactly the same as what she is saying. The ministers in the cabinet at this point in time will not say it's not a government of national unity. I'm quite sure about it. I haven't spoken with any one of them, but I'm quite certain that is the case. What the motive is for that, I cannot give you an answer. She's the only person who can do that.
But when she says that the president Ramaphosa did this effectively to create a more palatable image for the ANC doing business with the DA, it effectively undermines Cyril Ramaphosa. It does.
No, it doesn't, because the situation, and she's correct with this. She is the fact that there's a government of national unity and not a minimum winning coalition, as I explained earlier on, is because the ANC supporters won't tolerate an ANC-DA coalition. The DA supporters also won't tolerate an ANC-DA coalition. That is where why it became expanded and became much more inclusive in order to, if you want to use this concept, to dilute this idea of that it is a party coalition. And therefore they redesigned it to become a coalition for the national interest and not party interest.
If they've redesigned it, then to use a phrase that was commonly used in the apartheid era, which is called window dressing. If this is window dressing, right, then I'm saying it has implications for the credibility of the GNU, let alone the credibility of Ramaphosa in particular.
No, it doesn't, because the point is all these parties who participate with the idea that they can make a contribution to this. All of these parties said South Africa has been in serious trouble, economically speaking, socially speaking, crime, gender-based violence, and many other matters. And this is the first time ever that that we don't have a majority party in more than 50% plus one. It's a unique situation.
Okay. Lastly, how do you think the ANC should respond to this? Very quickly.
I don't think they are going to respond to this, because this is not a key issue about the relationship between the different parties in the coalition or the government of national unity.
But the Secretary General of the ANC has already said if anybody wants to leave the ANC, alluding to Zille, that they're free to leave.
Yeah, but this is not about it. There's no question about leaving this. You see, that's why I think there's an over-interpretation of what is meant by what she said.
Okay.
She gave a particular way of understanding this, but it's not about the future of the different parties that she's talking about in the government.
Okay. Let's leave it at that, Prof. Dirk Coetzee. That's the plan. Get us thinking, and you've certainly got us thinking, and we all have opinions on this issue. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. So what do you make of that conversation between myself and Professor Dirk Coetzee? In fact, what do you make of Helen Zille's pronouncements, and how important is Helen Zille to the DA and therefore to South Africa's politics?
When Freddie, a troubled woman, is nearly assaulted outside a nightclub, the toilet attendant steps in to help. Baba, a former child soldier, acts with swift, unstoppable brutality. She's entranced. The pair form an instant, intoxicating connection. Something dark within both of them quickly emerges. Soon, they set about exacting revenge on people from Freddie's past. Baba's skill for violence and Freddie's tinge of psychopathy prove a lethal combination. But they are not the only ones on the hunt. We hunt together, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 24th of July. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
It's Truck Month at Ford, and that means one thing. You save big when you upgrade to a 4x4. Get a Ford Ranger Wildtrak 4x4 Auto Double Cab for only $12,999 per month with 0% deposit. That's only $12,999 per month with free 4x4 driver training at your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
In August, we celebrate our amazing women farmers who nourish and clothe our nation.
Farmers and researchers and academia can work closely.
Catch Living Land on Sundays at 11 a.m. on SABC2.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, we'll take your calls. I can tell you now, we will take your calls, and lots of people want to say something about Helen Zille. Like her or not, and maybe she's listening, you can't avoid Helen Zille, can you? I mean, you really can't. We've not been able to avoid her for many, many years in South African politics. And once again, her pronouncements, in my opinion, puts her and what she feels on the agenda once again. And the question is, why is that the case? Right, let's get to the Eastern Cape now. The Eastern Cape Premier, Oscar Mabuyane, delivered his opening of the provincial legislature address from Intabankulu, that's in rural Eastern Cape. Now, the SABC News reporter Fundiswa Nklekudi attended the event and joins me now on the line. So appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Ashraf, and good day to the listeners.
Thank you, of course. So you've got this all-important role of telling us what we don't know regarding today's State of the Province address.
Well, Ashraf, what we heard at the State of the Province address is that Mr. Mabuyane touched on a number of issues. As we know that the Eastern Cape is at the moment grappling with the issue of recession, and he touched a number of things that could maybe help or assist the Eastern Cape in fighting that. Things like job creation through agriculture and the manufacturing industry. As we know that the Eastern Cape has huge hectares of land, arable land at that lie or lay unused, which might assist the people of the Eastern Cape and the Eastern Cape itself in fighting this recession. He also mentioned the issue of oceans economy. We also know that the Eastern Cape has beautiful beaches that may assist in the fishing industry, which may also assist in helping the Eastern Cape deal with the recession. So he also mentioned that the issue of unemployment, in fact, unemployment topped the list of things that the Premier talked about, saying that it is the number one enemy facing the Eastern Cape at the current moment. We know that the high unemployment rate in the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape is the only province with the highest unemployment rate in the country, sitting at 42.2% at the moment. So he was saying that there are a number of projects that are currently taking place at the moment, including road construction, because we know that residents in the Eastern Cape are complaining a lot about the issue of access roads. There are huge projects that are taking place, including the Umsikaba Bridge and Umtendu Bridge, as well as other road infrastructure construction that are taking place in the province at OR Tambo district, Umzimvubu local municipality, as well as Amatole district. There are huge road construction projects there that he is saying that there are a lot of job opportunities that have been created through those projects.
All right. Is there anything else that he may have omitted that you found surprising in terms of what was said?
Come again, Ashraf?
Anything else that he may have omitted in terms of your understanding of the big issues in that province?
Oh yes, the Premier talked about the issue of the oceans economy, because he was saying that a number of people are complaining that they do not have the rights to fish. So he was saying that working with the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, they are going to make sure that those people get those rights. And he was also saying that, just hold on, that the people of the Eastern Cape need to make sure that they work together to fight unemployment. He said that they wish to work together with businesses because because businesses can assist in ensuring that the people of the Eastern Cape fight the challenges that are being faced, like the issue of unemployment as well as the recession that is currently faced.
And that's where we leave it. Thank you. I think that's the big challenge for people in that region. I mean, massive unemployment, as you said, above the 40%. North of that is clearly not acceptable. Something has to change in that region. Fundizwa Implekure, the SABC News reporter in the Western Cape. Lots of comments, by the way, on the issues that we've been talking about. We'll talk about GNU in a moment. We've got Sello on the line regarding taxi drivers. Hello. Hi, Sello.
Ashraf, thanks for having me. Look, the way the taxi drivers, let me start by saying this. 2 weeks back ago, I was listening to Maria Sayandi on Power FM. He had the two biggest spokesperson of taxi drivers, Santiago and the other one, I forgot the other one. And then people were complaining about that side in Johannesburg. Ashraf, it seems like government does not want to do anything about these guys, especially taxi drivers. They call themselves the patrollers. They are all over. You come to Polokwane, you come to Mkopane and all those. Anywhere, Ashraf, you'll find taxi drivers outside, away from their taxi rank, sitting somewhere waiting for people and then stopping people and searching people to tell them they are not allowed to people.
And you're right, it's allowed to continue, and that is it's just not on.
Exactly, Ashraf. So it is said, listening to the young man who is saying, why are we being murdered for trying to put food on the table? And the government is watching everything. All this harassment, all this beating and murder of people, It is there, Ashraf. It has been compiled. It is everywhere. It is on social media, but the government is not acting. Taxi driver, by the way, they are not allowed. Even me, a person is not allowed to ferry people 50 meters, I think, or so from the taxi rank. I mean, I cannot go close to taxi rank and get people. It's not allowed
because of the dangers.
Yes, but they move from 2 kilometers and 3 to 5 kilometers, Ashraf. And then they wait for us there, and then they start beating people and harassing.
All right.
people.
It certainly happened to me in
Government is not
Pretoria.
doing
That was
anything.
told, you can go further away. All right. We need to move on. Appreciate it. Again, it's an issue. And I just wonder, how can we have these type of conversations about these issues for years on end? Like as if it's one of those things, isn't it? So that's one of the issues that should drive the national pulse. Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The government of South Africa says the assassination of Hamas senior leader Ismail Haniyeh and the continuous targeting of civilians in Gaza will further aggravate the already tense situation in the entire region. An historic prisoner swap between Russia, the US, and Russia has been taking place in Turkey, with journalist Evan Goshkovich, an ex-Marine and a Kremlin critic included. And a man has been sentenced to life in prison in the Western Cape High Court for the murder of a police officer. More on that story at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R24 eastbound in Kempton Park is slow moving towards the R21 airport interchange. The M1 southbound is queuing through Crown interchange towards Boysons. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In Pretoria, Trans-Oranje Road northbound slow moving at Morkel Street, the N1 northbound slow moving towards the N4 Witbank Highway, and Eskampa-Chleli Drive northbound has delays towards Mabopane Highway. In KZN, the N2 southbound in Isipinga has a crash reported before the Joiner Road exit. The N3 westbound has a truck crash reported before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The road is closed off, causing heavy delays. The N3 eastbound is queuing through the M13 Paradise Valley interchange due to the crash on the opposite carriageway. The R102 southbound is slow moving near Old North Coast Road, and Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavonga Road exit. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue. Strand Road eastbound in Bellville is queuing towards the R300 highway. And the M3 Philip Gosana outbound has a crash reported at Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Right, to me, remember the name, Smith.
Tatiana Smith. Well, she's on the brink of clinching double gold medals at the ongoing Olympic Games in Paris, and this will be her second appearance in the 200-meter breaststroke final, where she is determined to defend her title and become the second South African after Caster Semenya to win consecutive gold medals in the same event. And she says she's feeling confident and thrilled to advance to the final, which will take place at the Paris Dar Defense Arena tonight.
No, I wouldn't say comfortable, but I really had fun. It was so cool that we could challenge each other. I knew it was going to be a good race. I just had to have confidence in myself and, just race my own race because at the end of the day, I have to walk out of the pool being happy and not having any regrets. So, I enjoyed every single moment. This is the part of swimming that I love, is the competitiveness and challenging each other. And she brought out the best in me today, and I was very happy with that.
She'll be competing alongside Kayleen Corbett of South Africa, also in the 200-meter breaststroke, and they're swimming at 11 minutes past 9. Also swimming this evening is Peter Kotsia, and he'll be competing in the 200-meter backstroke, and he says he's all set for his competition, and he'll be swimming at 20:38 this evening. Also, one to look out for today is Simone Biles, who'll be looking to make history by becoming the first woman ever to regain the Olympic all-round title after she was famously she withdrew in Tokyo with the twisties. So now she's looking and hoping to make a bit of history over there, and she'll be on around 6:15. In tennis, Quinn Wen Jen beat world number 1 Iga Swiatek 6-2, 7-5 to become the first Chinese player to reach an Olympic Games tennis singles final. And Jen will face either Croatia's Donna Vekic or Anna Karolina of Slovakia in the gold medal match. Then moving on to cricket. Cricket South Africa and Afghanistan Cricket Board have announced a 3-match one-day international series between the Proteas men and Afghanistan from the 18th to the 22nd of September in the United Arab Emirates. The ODI series, in the first ever bilateral series between the two sides, will all be 3 matches set to be hosted by ACB at the Sharjah Cricket Stadium. South Africa have faced Afghanistan on 2 occasions in 50-over cricket during the last 2 ICC Men's Cricket World Cup in 2019 and 2023. And then the Springboks have touched down in Australia in high spirits. This is after an overnight flight from Johannesburg, and they're going to have a rest for the day, recover from that long journey, and then they'll be back at it again tomorrow. However, they've laid a great foundation because they were training throughout on Monday and Tuesday before departing from Brisbane. Remember, they are in action in the Castle Lager Rugby Championship in Brisbane on the 10th of August and on the 17th of August, and we believe they will do well. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more on other sports tomorrow. Finally, you can say tomorrow.
Well,
Ashraf.
yeah. What's the expectations for the Springboks on that tour down under?
Listen, they're hoping to do well. They say they're going to give themselves. They don't have the great record, obviously, in Australia. But I think the team that has been selected thus far by Erasmus, I'm confident that they can do well.
And I am saying, win or lose, they obviously want to win. I think that's a given. But like we lost to Ireland with that last gasp drop kick, and I love drop kicks, by the way. But the bigger picture is to plan for a new team. That means there has to be a phase out of some of the players and the guys on the border, on the bomb squad would then emerge as the dominant players, like say within a year. It has to happen.
And I think Grassi is trying. You can see with the mixture of the squad as a whole, but also just some of the new or young players that are trying to get into the national team. But it'll be interesting to see who's going to come in to fill in those big shoes, because this team that has won the World Cup twice has done well.
Here's a quick question for you before I let you go. Who's top of the leaderboard in the Olympic Games right now?
Who's topping?
Who's topping it? If you don't know, just say
In
you don't
terms
know.
of medals?
Yeah.
China.
Okay, and the last time?
The last
And
time.
if you don't know, it's fine, because there's a reason I'm telling you this.
What do you mean the last time?
The last Olympic Games.
Oh, the last Olympic Games. Was it not the USA?
Okay, the reason why I'm doing, not to test you, but to test myself. I promise you, I don't know and I don't care. It's a strange sport where you don't, or event where you don't have like the top of the leaderboard having a celebration like they won the World Cup.
Yeah.
It's ultimately it's countries, but it's very focused on the teams and the individuals that compete in those individual games. So that's why if you ask me to rattle off the last 5 Olympic Games winners, I don't know, not even for R1 million.
But I can tell you an interesting one in terms of the medal table.
Yeah.
China is at the top because they have the most golds. However, currently speaking, USA has the most medals, but the golds count for more on the table
equal,
than
but
silver or bronze.
And that may shift dramatically with the track.
Absolutely. Currently,
Table.
South Africa is 17th.
Can we get to 10th? Goodness, can you just imagine that? Right, more sport tomorrow. Did you say your goodbyes?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Attention ladies, join us on Saturday, August 17th, 2024 for the Star Choices Yours Women's Day event at Altitude Fourways, a day dedicated to empowerment, inspiration and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an Honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy, let's talk money, let's talk business, let's talk about all those type of things with the SAFM market update. Hi, Jimmy.
Hi, Ashraf. Hi, Dumi, and good afternoon to the listeners. Certainly an interesting show coming up later today. We're going to be taking a look at ArcelorMittal's results. They gave us their 6 months ended June 2024. We're going to be speaking to the company's CEO about that performance. It does not look like they had the best time over the last 6 months, but we know the challenges they have been faced with. So we're going to get a sense of where to from here for the business. Then we've got a conversation with Gaia around their latest fund that they have built. Gaia fund managers are looking to build the largest renewables fund focused on African investments and African renewable energy projects. We're going to speak to them and try and understand what's going into that and who's committed to that fund. Then we have a conversation around the Companies Act. There have been some changes that have come through as a result of some amendments that the president has signed off, and that means there's going to be some interesting adjustments for companies, both private and public, in how they report on things, and we're just going to get a sense of that and try and understand that in a bit more detail. Then, because it's Thursday, we have our SME feature on a Thursday where we look at a small business and try and see if we can put that small business in the eyes of you and I as consumers so the business can grow bigger. This week's company is the Velvet Cake Company based in Cape Town. We're going to speak to the founder of the company and try and understand what they do. I hear they deliver nationwide, but you can also build your own cake, so stick around for that. Before we get to that, markets have started off the month of August in the potentially one of the worst fashions they could have, but I suppose given yesterday's positive movements, we can expect that there would be some retracements, but markets were largely in the red today, and Henko Kreer has been keeping an eye on those markets for us. He joins me now to give us a quick summary of what's been moving those markets. Good evening, Henko. Thanks as always for the time. It seems as though we had to start off with some retracement, but did we expect this much?
Hello, Jimmy, Ashraf, and Tumi, and good evening to all of our listeners. Yes, Jimmy, look, yesterday on the last day of July, we had such a mammoth day setting new records on the JSE's all-share index. The markets was piping hot yesterday, so I can expect everything just to cool down today, the next day, especially on the 1st of August. In the US at the moment, sharp down, the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq trading 1.3% weaker, and the S&P 500 losing 0.8%. And then in Europe, the DAX and the CAC 40, they both finished 2.3% weaker today, and the FTSE 100 in London lost 1.1%. And on the JSE, the all-share index finished 1.1% weaker at a lower level of 81,869 points, still very high. The industrial index finished 0.9% down. The financial index lost 0.6% today. And then the resources index decided to finish 2.3% weaker. Amplats finished a lot lower today. It lost 7.5% today. Sibanye-Stillwater 5% down. Northam and Implats, they both finished 4.5% weaker. And Alphaman, Investec, Vodacom, those companies, all of them lost 3%. On the positive side of things, Growthpoint had a better day. They finished 2.5% up. WBHO and Redefine, they gained 2%, and Resilient and Tungela each finished the day 1.9% better and stronger. Among the 10 largest companies on our stock exchange, AB InBev did the best. It finished 2.1% stronger. But on the negative side, Anglo lost 3% today, Richmond 3.5% weaker, and Glencore finished the day 4% down. Then let's have a look at the exchange rate. At the moment, 18 Rand 16 to the US dollar, still seems fine. And then 19 Rand 59 to the euro, 11 Rand 85 to the Australian dollar, and 23 Rand and 20 cents to the British pound. And on the commodities market, the gold price is $2,450 an ounce, silver $28.50, platinum $965, and palladium trading at $895 an ounce. The oil price is sitting at $80.30 a barrel. And then lastly, but not least, the price of a Bitcoin, $63,100, and that is 1,160,000 rand. And Jimmy, that's how the markets performed today.
Certainly lots to unpack, and we will do so when we come back a little later on. For now, Ashraf, we're going to cross back to you, but I'll leave you with this as a parting thought. Today, in exactly 1936, so 88 years ago, the SABC was officially launched, and I'll have more of those facts when we come back a little later on.
Absolutely, and there's a great chance that listeners, because of that, will win great prizes over the next few days, next few weeks or so. And here's another one, if I can say that. Leanne Manners, on air, morning live, 20 years. If she was a politician, that would be a monarchy. There we are. Certainly the queen of the airwaves, I've no doubt about it. An absolute champion broadcaster is what Leanne Manners is. Right, thanks for that, Jimmy. Enjoy your show. We will take calls right after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Explore the family drama and legacy of one of the most powerful royal families in South Africa, the Mukwebos. This is Mubango, 30 Years of Democracy, Season 1 and Season 2. See how it all began, from when a king suddenly dies, leaving behind two wives, one from a customary marriage and the other from a civil union, coming full circle to the coronation of one of his sons. Mubango Season 1 and Season 2, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. on SABC2. You belong.
Everyone is just as important as you are. Stop gender-based violence. Treat others the way you want to be treated. No one deserves any form of violence. Report gender-based violence. Contact Lifeline South Africa toll-free number on your mobile phone. Call or WhatsApp 0800 150 150. That's 0800 150 150. Lifeline South Africa. Mental and emotional health for all. This is an SABC supported initiative.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
We're going to chat to Ria Piacha, just now, around the issues of debating. So looking forward to that. Let's get some quick calls on Helen Zille. Michael in PE, go ahead. Hi.
Ashraf, quick one. You know, this GNU thing, right? Some of us said there's nothing like a GNU. It's a coalition, right? And I think some people even called your station. I did. And I said to you, I don't know why the media keeps saying a GNU, because it's not. It doesn't fit the criteria of a GNU. Now, in light of what Madame Zille has said, because, you know, one thing with Zille, right, but she speaks her mind. I think it is very hard for her to lie. She just says it as it is. Whether you like it or not is a different issue. I don't personally like it because she said colonialism had its positives, but it's like she says it as it is. You see, with COVID, she said what she had to say. So she's saying, look, it's not a GNU, it's a coalition. So, but the other angle is this. Remember, the MK party, I think it's gone to court to say this is not a GNU.
Yeah.
Is this not going to strengthen their hand? What's the court going to do if a person like Zille, who handles DSAs, is not a GNU, it's a coalition?
Okay, leave it at that, Michael. I'm going to move on. You know, time's against us. It's a good question. And luckily, unlike Zilla, I don't have to speak my mind about that. But it's an interesting one because I've always said, Michael, that I would call it the GNU because that grouping called themselves the GNU. They changed their name to GSS or whatever they want to call themselves, right? That's fine. That's my opinion. But what is interesting is here a significant member within a significant party is effectively saying it's not. So that's something. Michael, thanks for that call. Hamilton in Dobsonville. That's Rudaport side, I think it is. Yeah. Hamilton, hi.
Hi, Dobsonville is in Soweto.
Soweto, of course. I'm thinking about where Ace in Solango came from, which is Randfontein. That's another area completely. Go ahead. I'm thinking of that big long stadium because you've got this longest. The sports stadium there, Dobsonville, is very, very high. That I know about. Okay, go ahead, Hamilton. Yeah.
Yes. I just want to comment about this Helen Zille interview. You see, from the
the outcome of the election, Helen Zille has been outspoken more than any other member of the DA. This tells me that only her does not want to be in the GNU. However, she wants to be on the coalition with the ANC.
Mm-hmm.
So for her speaking her mind, she wants to dismantle this GNU and force ANC to go into coalition with the DA alone. She's the only person that wants this, because if it was the DA, the leader of the organization should be speaking this, or the spokesperson of the organization. But it's not those two speaking this. It is only her who is not the leader of the organization.
Got that. I'm going to move on because of time. I get that. The question is she playing a card? Is she playing a trump card? Like, what's her plan, isn't it? Okay, thanks for that one. Here's maybe the last one that I will play on the Helen Zille issue. Then we'll get to our next guest.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Mac in Durban. Helen Zille is spot on. Yeah, this is a coalition between the ANC and the DA. It's the end of the ANC, essentially, and possibly end of the DA. So it's one of two. If this so-called coalition doesn't hold, I don't think it's going to hold personally. If it doesn't hold, there is one of two things. The ANC must be kicked out. People of South Africa rejected the ANC, 40%. In other words, a majority of us who've been voting for them, we don't want them anymore. The DA should stop forcing the ANC onto us. DA must speak to the guys they don't want to speak to. Speak to EFF, MK, and form a government and leave the ANC out in opposition badges.
Well, but if the DA wants to form a government with the EFF and MK, they need to give each other reason to want to be chommies, if you get my point. You have to come together. That's it. Right, let's end with a fascinating feature around debating, which I think is important. And it centers around the Safer South Africa Foundation. The former National Commissioner of Police and the current CEO of the Safer South Africa Foundation is Ria Piecha. Now, she talks to us about this important issue around youth empowerment and the importance of teaching young people the art of debating. Okay, so that's the one part of it. The second part of it, we've got a student, that's Kutle Sitkaka, who is a student at the Fort Hare University. So good evening and good chatting to both of you. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Ashraf. Thank you very much for having us, and good evening to your listeners.
Thank you. And Ria, good evening to you. Kutlek, good evening to you too, right?
Good evening. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So let me start with you then. It's rather interesting calling you the CEO of Safer South Africa Foundation, Ria Piecha. Tell me about this issue around your thoughts on debating and why it's that important.
Ashraf, if I may just quickly say to you, the reason we're doing this, as Safer South Africa Foundation, we are saying, as a nation, we must protect our youth because they are our future. So, Safer South Africa Foundation is about youth crime prevention using education and awareness.
Okay.
We then look forward to them to be ambassadors after going through our programs, and we work with the entire security cluster, the Department of Basic Education, the banks, the Human Rights Commission. So we take them through various programs. For them to be ambassadors, we believe that every person has an opinion, but the differentiator is whether they are empowered to be able to share that opinion. So through these debating programs that we take them through, educate them through, they're in rural areas, they're not exposed to some of the products like Toastmasters that are in the urban areas. So we've created programs for those children in the rural areas, and we teach them through that. So this debating culture, we believe, is very, very important because it helps them to improve their academic program. It gives them better capacity to communicate. It gives them confidence. They're able to express their opinions. It's a problem-solving tool, and they become confident ambassadors of this crime prevention programs that we are running.
And so, just on that, I mean, just your personal insight, if I may, Ria, in terms of the art of debating, what works for you?
I think the art of debating actually, as I say to you, for me the important thing is to say, I am able to express myself and I am able to articulate clearly what I need to articulate. But also, it is a tool for enhancing communication. amongst people. It is a tool for enhancing confidence in our young ones. The young lady you're going to talk to is one of our learners that came from our various cohorts. She's now at university. She will tell you that she addresses, gatherings such as the WHO. She is out there as one of our own. She writes poetry, and we found her in a space where she wasn't able to articulate herself well. She is one of our greatest ambassadors
well,
now
there you are.
in terms of youth crime prevention.
Well, it's a wonderful setup to speak to you, Kutle. So, yeah, go ahead. I mean, wonderful tribute to you. I mean, talk to me about your debating skills and how you've learned these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So basically, let's start with the program. Being a part of Safer South Africa program from the CJP, all the way attending all the different studies that we had leading up to our award ceremony, where we had to write an essay expressing ourselves on how the program went, what we had learned, and what we are willing to do to play our part to make a change in our communities. Where I won first place in the essay and got to take part in the national debate that was hosted by Safer South Africa. So I think this journey has actually played such a huge role in my life because debating fosters excellent communication skills in general. So it taught me how to articulate my thoughts clearly and persuasively, of course. And this has helped me in my professional and a social context. I'm currently in my third year at the University of Fort Hare, and the debating skills that were instilled in the program in Safer South Africa have fostered a deeper understanding of diverse viewpoints of different things that occur in South Africa. And the topics that we're given, right, are prepared based off what is happening currently in South Africa. And I am so proud to say, as someone who has had the privilege of representing South Africa at an international conference and encouraging various leadership roles, I was recently the youngest delegate of South Africa at the Asian Youth International Model United Nations 13 Conference in Kuala Lumpur, in speaking in the World Health Organization and UNICEF. And recently I was at the Discover Model United Nations hosted in the United States of America on Zoom. And as a delegate of South Africa, I won Best Position Paper. So these skills, the debating skills that were groomed and harnessed in the Safe South African program have really worked out to the best of my ability. And through these initiatives that Safe South Africa Foundation is doing, we strive to create a platform for other young people to develop these crucial skills to become the next world leaders, because I am pushing towards that goal, and I want many other young people to be able to do so as well.
And I love talking to champions, and this is exactly what I'm doing today. So I listen to you, Kutle, and I'm saying, goodness, I need to see what you do, and I hope you can impact on a, as you said already, global scale, not just for yourself, but for the rest.
Yes.
Just the last thing, we're going to wrap up now. Just the last thing, what for you is your greatest skill within, debating and insight? Just one thing.
Okay, I think my greatest achievement in debating is being able to speak on the current affairs of your country and being able to stand your ground. Doing research on debating is very diverse. You see many articles, you see many references, but then getting to a point where you're speaking in front of people and people are able to listen to you with the information that you come with, and the importance of being able to listen to other people and their information is very important. So investing in debating has really taught me the leadership skills that I've needed, and the topics that we're given are able to groom us and to be able to, to understand that we can empower the next generation to build a safer and more equipped South Africa.
Perfect. Thanks for your time. Maybe the last word, and it really is just one sentence, Ria, just final thought to leave us with.
Ashraf, join us on the 7th of September at Birchwood, where 48 young ones like Kuhle would be slogging it out, starting to, to just express themselves. So you are invited.
I may just do that. I'll tell you what, if somebody sent me a CV and they said, not great listening skills, but great debating skills, I'd be very, very interested. So, Ria Piecha, thank you for your time, CEO of the Safer South Africa Foundation. And then Kutle Sikaka, who's a student, in fact, also part of as ambassador of the Safer South Africa Foundation. That's the show. Just before I end up, let me say this. Who's going to be watching in groups for tonight when South Africa potentially can win 3 medals? And I'm looking at Robert Adams. You know, he's the sports presenter from Cape Town, working for TRT in Turkey, and he's put together a picture with his flag, and he's got his veldskoene, and he's got the South African flag, socks, and he says, I'm dressed for success, ready to represent my country in the spectator seats at the Paris Games today. Forgot my fuff, declare Speedos at home. Otherwise, I was in that Olympic pool later. Stru. Hashtag official team SA. That's it. He's a champion. Hopefully we have more champions tonight. Let's get the news now with Greg Hoos.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update,